everything. If you see the wonder of a fairy tale, you can take the future, even if you fail. I believe in angels, something good in everything I see. I believe in angels, when I know the time is right for me, I'll cross the street. I have a dream, I have a dream, a fantasy to help me through reality. And my destination makes it worthwhile, pushing through the darkness till another light. I believe in angels, something good in everything I see. I believe in angels, when I know the time is right for me, I'll cross the street. I have a dream, I'll cross the street. I have a dream.
यह क्या है? बत्तख। बत्तख की तलवार सिंगा। यह क्या है? सपेरा। तलवार सा। दोनों मिलकर के क्या हुआ? बस।
India's new education policy and Nipun Bharat mission have given the highest importance to foundational literacy and numeracy. The classic problem in education has been speed, the speed of learning. Even after 3 years of schooling, most children do not know how to read, write, or do basic numeracy. Without these skills, children lag behind and eventually lose interest. But there is a new disruptive research-based pedagogy that is making a huge difference. ALfA, or Accelerating Learning for All. ALfA has shown it is possible to make children learn foundational skills within months and not years. Oral reading fluency follows from the ability to read in the first place. ALfA pedagogy has been incorporated in the Global Dream Toolkits, an online learning app called Literacy Now. Lessons are broken down into half-page modules. Children work in pairs. The children take turns to ask questions from each other and answer them. The teacher does not teach. Instead, the teacher reads out the prompts which tell the children what their task is.
तो कविता हमने पढ़ाई थी ना, उसी में के क्वेश्चन है इसमें। ठीक, दो लोग बैठे हो, एक जना क्वेश्चन पढ़ेगा और दूसरा उसका क्या देगा? आंसर।
The results from this process-led transformation is that learning explodes. It is also a joyful learning process. Global Dream Toolkits are now available in 15 Indian languages. They can easily be replicated in other languages. ALfA has begun to be implemented in many states and districts of India. We are now working in 2 of the 10 low-performing districts of India as identified by the Ministry of Education. These are Shambli in Uttar Pradesh and Sambalpur in Orissa. The goal is to bring the results in these two districts up before the next National Achievement Survey in March 2023. We are taking the challenge up. We have also begun work in Jharkhand and Mizoram, among others. Our target is making the ALfA pedagogy the modus of teaching in the future so that it becomes an integral and systemic part of education by which every child learns.
And we use the method, the 3S of teaching. It is Sawal, Samay and Sambandh. Sawal means we ask the learner questions so that they can pick up the things at their own pace. The second is Samay, we give them plenty of time. And the third is Sambandh, we keep a friendly relationship with the children.
Then we follow the FLN, that is foundational literacy and numeracy. In this, we follow the reverse method of teaching.
Ma'am, we are adopting LSRW. This stands for listening, speaking, reading, and then writing. We make sure that writing is the last part.
बहुत अच्छा अनुभव रहा ग्लोबल टीम के साथ.
It's a very nice project that is initiated by Smita Gandhi ji.
I am very pleased to say Global Dream campaign to spread literacy.
शिक्षा जो है ये मनुष्य के लिए वरदान है.
Learners of the school can go to them and can teach them or can make them educated.
Delhi, despite COVID-19, the number of peeps, China. Ravidas Jayanti turns into political. 20 years old, need new digital law. Chandrasekhar.
हमें लगता है कि भारत और पूरा विश्व जो है वो लिटरेट हो सकता है, बहुत ही जल्दी हो सकता है. यूनिसेफ ने एस्टिमेट किया है कि बिफोर द कोविड 52% बच्चे पूरे वर्ल्ड में पढ़ नहीं पाते थे. ये 70 साल की प्रॉब्लम है, आज की प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. और कोविड के बाद सिचुएशन बहुत गुना खराब हो गई. एक नन्हे मुन्ने बच्चे आपके सामने जो खड़े हैं, तो ये कैसे संभव है? 5 साल के बच्चे, 6 साल के बच्चे, 7 साल के बच्चे बात भी नहीं पढ़ पाते हैं, वर्ड्स पढ़ रहे होते हैं.
I am going to read the Hindu newspaper.
और आज के डेट में सिचुएशन इतनी खराब है कि बच्चे क्लास 4 या 5 में बैठे हैं, वो नहीं पढ़ पा रहे हैं. तो यहाँ पर जो बीच में खड़े बच्चे हैं, या यूकेजी के बच्चे हैं, और आज ही आपको पढ़ते दिखा रहे जो अखबार हाथ में पकड़े हैं, ये लखनऊ के पेपर्स नहीं है, ये आपके दिल्ली के पेपर्स हैं.
A year sealed it for India. Interest rates are unlikely to go any lower. Signals RBI, Mumbai. Our
Asia's first PSL-3 mobile lab set up in Maha. Terrible mystery. Experts do not rule out the possibility of experimental underground
खुद आके इनसे कहेंगे मुझे ये पढ़ के सुनाइए, तो वो पढ़ के इन्हें सुना देंगे। ये बच्चे आपके सामने क्लास 2 से नीचे के बच्चे हैं और भूले नहीं बल्कि बहुत सारी चीजें उन्होंने सीख ली। तो मात्र 3 महीने इन्होंने पढ़ना, दोनों भाषाओं में पढ़ना और गणित एक क्लास आगे, ये पूरा इन्होंने 30 आवर्स में कर लिया।
Students from all over India are and medal winners gladly shared beliefs and were gladly called to Delhi world most polluted capital ranked fourth among cities. दिल्ली में 10 साल बाद से एक ही नगर निगम होगा।
India is a great nation, making strides for social and economic progress. Yet there is one huge problem holding us back. India has the largest population of illiterates in the world. This impacts the lives of millions.
नहीं पढ़े हैं तो जिंदगी बहुत कठिन है, पढ़े होते तो जिंदगी बहुत आसान होती।
But we know this problem is solvable if we work together. Just as we are reaching toilets to every home, we can also spread literacy throughout the nation. Our dream is 100% literacy, in which everyone can participate in the nation's progress. This hope is how Global Dream was born. India desperately needs a people's movement to spread the light of literacy. Literacy for all is within our grasp. We only need to bring together 3 key ingredients. We need government leadership of a time-bound mission to eradicate illiteracy.
Global Dream trained some 4,000 government teachers to carry out an exhaustive survey of target populations throughout Lucknow district. 4 lakh households and 16 lakh population was covered last. Data showed more illiteracy than we had anticipated.
The mission must utilize teaching materials that simplify and speed up learning. Global Dream is quick, effective, and available in 13 languages. There are multiple Global Dream resources available at low or zero cost for a wide variety of contexts.
ग्लोबल ड्रीम का जो कॉन्सेप्ट है उसमें इन्होंने हमें 2 किताबें उपलब्ध कराई हैं, जो कि ये इसका पहला कदम है, जिसमें एक किताब है बिना मात्रा वाली, एक किताब है मात्रा वाली। वो दोनों किताबें बहुत ही पतली पतली हैं। उन दोनों किताबों में आप ये समझिए किसी भी एक व्यक्ति को अगर 20-20 मिनट लगातार आप 15 से 20 दिन भी देंगे, पढ़ना और लिखना सीख जाता है।
Here are just some of the scalable models developed by Global Dream to mobilize all sectors of society in a literacy movement. Students are leading the change through teaching in school-based literacy centers.
पापा मम्मी के साथ सुबह जाता हूँ कूड़ा उठाने, फिर चले आता हूँ, आके नहा धो के इसी स्कूल में आता हूँ। इस स्कूल में हमको बहुत अच्छा लगता है।
मैं काम करती हूँ कोठी में, रोबोट बुक 1 अभी हम खत्म करने वाला हूँ।
School students are also taking the campaign to homes.
Like when you look at him, you can say that, yeah, I taught this boy. So, you know, you get that very nice feeling from it.
I got this Global Dream project in my summer break. She's Geeta Keshwarwani. She's the maid of my house since many years.
सोचते थे कि हमको रामायण पढ़ना आ जाए।
हमें बहुत अच्छा लगता है इस बच्चे से पढ़ने में और बहुत प्यार से मुझे समझाता है।
जैसे अगर हमें प्राइज भी ना मिले तब भी हमारे लिए और बड़ा प्राइज है दूसरों को पढ़ाना।
College students and BTC trainees are also leading the movement for literacy.
हम लोग को जो किट्स प्रोवाइड करी गई थी, इसमें जैसे कैलेंडर दिया गया था और कुछ फ्लैश कार्ड्स दिए गए थे जिनके थ्रू हमें कुछ एक्टिविटीज़ करानी थी। तो बच्चे काफ़ी अट्रैक्टेड हुए इसकी तरफ, क्योंकि एक तो उसमें जो पिक्चर्स थी, कलरफुल पिक्चर्स थी, और वो पढ़ाने का तरीका, जो साउंड्स हम लोग उनको बेसिकली बोलते थे कि आप साउंड बताइए, तो उससे उनको इंटरेस्ट आ रहा था थोड़ा।
The real struggle for literacy is happening in village communities throughout India. Urban slum areas also desperately need the light of literacy.
180 ladies of Koroni village passed the NLM exam in August 2015. The volunteers and learners have continued to teach beyond the exams with new learners and greater levels of learning by newly literates. Local volunteers took just 2 to 4 months to prepare the learners for the NLM.
जिंदगी तो बनाए किसी की,
पल के लिए ही सही जिंदगी तो बनाए किसी की। आओ साक्षर बनाए सभी को, आओ साक्षर बनाए सभी को।
India is a great nation, making strides of social and economic progress. Yet there is one huge problem holding us back. India has the largest population of illiterates in the world. This impacts the lives of millions.
नहीं पढ़े हैं तो जिंदगी बहुत कठिन है, पढ़े होते तो जिंदगी बहुत आसान होती।
But we know this problem is solvable if we work together. Just as we are reaching toilets to every home, we can also spread literacy throughout the nation. Our dream is 100% literacy, in which everyone can participate in the nation's progress. This hope is how Global Dream was born. India desperately needs a people's movement to spread the light of literacy. Literacy for all is within our grasp. We only need to bring together three key ingredients. We need government leadership of a time-bound mission to eradicate illiteracy.
Global Dream trained some 4,000 government teachers to carry out an exhaustive survey of target populations throughout Lucknow district. 4 lakh households and 16 lakh population was covered last. Data showed more illiteracy than we had anticipated.
We need government leadership, time-bound mission. The mission must utilize teaching materials that simplify and speed up learning. Global Dream is quick, effective, and available in 13 languages. There are multiple Global Dream resources available at low or zero cost for a wide variety of contexts.
Warm greetings and Jai Jagat to one and all. Education is a worldwide emergency, and urgent action is required today and not tomorrow. Therefore, today we join hands with all to work together, ensuring fundamental literacy and numeracy for all children, and do it in months, not years or decades, by using disruptive methods which have been used to learn quickly. There is no education without foundational skills. So let us step up the act of making everyone literate together. And in doing so, let's make FLN universal. Let us feel free to communicate and interact with each other, pondering over disruptive FLN, foundational literacy and numeracy, along with greening of education. With this thought in mind, I would like to welcome all our esteemed guests, our management, our international, national, and local participants to the massive open online training being held to enhance teachers' motivation and practical skills to accelerate FLN. We accord a very warm welcome to the founder, Devi Sansthan, a former economist, the World Bank, USA, PhD from Cambridge University, UK, Chief Advisor, Academics, City Montessori School, Lucknow, the world's largest school. The lady herself, who has given a deep thought to education for all and introduced us to this beautiful program. Let us hear from Dr. Sunita Gandhi.
I'm so very delighted to begin a new chapter in the effort to make the world literate. And this is massive open online training. I'm so very delighted that many of you have joined us today on different platforms across the world. And I'm delighted to announce that we have over 45 countries from which people are joining us during the course of this day, beginning at this moment. So there are 3 sessions that will be held today, 2 for literacy and 1 for numeracy. And tomorrow we are going to do 2 for numeracy and 1 for literacy. And we hope that all of you will attempt to attend at least 1 entire session of literacy, that's 3.5 hours, and 1 entire session of numeracy. And at the end of each one of them, there is a brief quiz and an opinion survey, which I hope you will take, because that means we stay connected. And that also means that we can forward to you certain resources that will be helpful to you if you agree that this might be a better way to teach our children the skills of foundational literacy and numeracy. As we all know, that FLN is a worldwide problem. It's not just a problem for our country here in India, but a worldwide problem. And UNICEF reports, UNICEF, World Bank, and UNESCO have jointly agreed that the number, the estimate is 70% of 10-year-olds and under 10-year-olds cannot read, write, or do basic arithmetic. And this is a crying shame. This is after the COVID. But guess what? Before the COVID also, the results were on reading, the performance of our schools was not so great. After 5 years of schooling, it is estimated by UNICEF and others that 53% of the children could not read, write, and do basic arithmetic. And that figure went down from 53% to 58% between 2015 and 2019. That were the number of children, 58, nearly 60% children before the COVID could not read, write, or do basic arithmetic. Yes, COVID blew a severe blow, but is there a problem with our education system? And if there is, we need to fix it. We can't assume that past is always a precedence for the future. So many things have gone outdated. We don't have the telegram anymore. We don't have the old landline phone anymore. So many things have become a part of our history, even as we live today. And I think we need to look at education with a lot more circumspection. We need to think, how can it be vastly different? How can it be so much more capable of delivering on its promises to make every child good and smart, every child capable of the highest success, because they deserve it, because they have the potential to do so, because God has given everyone the opportunity to become great. It is not right that so many children across the world cannot read, write, or do basic arithmetic. And because of that, there are injustices that they have to face. They suffer indignity for the rest of their lives. A child who's 6 today and not in school will be an older person of 60 is still impoverished, is still living in utter poverty, because education is a great break. I was so fortunate to be able to attend a good education. I was so fortunate to be able to go to a good university. And I think that made all the difference in my life. I managed to work in very many places like the World Bank in Washington. I managed to get scholarships to study, even though we did not have the funds at the time. And all of this was possible because I got the break of an education. And I think this is the fate of millions of children across the world who have tremendous potentials. There are many Rama Newtons out there. There are many Abraham Lincolns out there. There are many Mahatma Gandhis out there. And we are not able to tap that resource. It all begins with the first step. As Adlai Stevenson and Chinese proverb says, journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. For the children also, the journey of their education and their life begins with their very first step, which is foundational literacy and numeracy. If they cannot read, they are disadvantaged for the rest of their lives. It is such a huge problem that a child who could possibly read in a few days or learn to read in a few days is not learning to read in 5 years of schooling. And I think we can change that. So there is a problem with schooling, because many places we see that children are coming to school. In worldwide, many countries have 98% and above rates of um, enrollment. So enrollment is not any longer a problem. Even girls are going to school. And yesterday was International Day of Women. And I think we need to acknowledge that all girls must be in school. Why do parents give preference to boys? Because we have utter poverty, and poverty dictates those terms. I think every parent this day at least wants that both their children educate and not just the boys, because girls are holding aloft their families and their interests so strongly. Adolescent girls, they drop out of school because they don't have requisite skills, and there are other, of course, socioeconomic factors. But nevertheless, I think girls, their education has to take prominence, and we need to make sure that they are enrolled, which of course they are at this point in time. The enrollment of girls in many countries has shot up tremendously over the last decade and a half. So I think the challenge goes there to the school, that they're in school, but they're not learning. So what is the problem? Why are they not learning? And this is where I'd like to say that maybe we need to be circumspect about the pedagogy that we're using. And that might be the missing ingredient. That might be where we need to refocus our energies. We can't teach the old way anymore. It's not bringing out the best in every child, the old dynamics of competing with each other, competition right at the core, marks culture. It is not bringing out the best in everyone. Very early on, the children get the sense, I'm not good enough. And this is not good enough. We need to have every child feel, I'm special, I'm great, I can do anything, I'm one in a million, marvelous, awesome, and lovely, and I can accomplish anything. And this is the spirit we need to fill, and not relative comparisons that have held back human potential for centuries. This is old age ethic, and is still 22 years after we are in the 21st century, we are holding ourselves hostage to the old and the uninteresting ways of teaching our children. Children are bored, teachers are bored, there's a lot of stress for teachers, there's a lot of stress for children. And I think you all agree with that. Now the question is, what is the solution? And this is where we are holding this training program, because we have discovered a solution. And what is that solution that we have discovered? The solution is basically ALfA, which we call accelerating learning for all. So we are presenting to you how to do things differently in your classroom, so that with the ALfA methods, you can get far better results in FLN attempts that you're making, working ever so hard to make sure your children are doing well on FLN. FLN is the world's #1 priority in education. It is also the priority of SDG 4. And in India, we also see that this is #1 priority of education in India. The new education policy of India has made it very clear that all the state governments are to come up with plans for immediate action and for immediate remediation of this problem, filling the gap that exists between the pre-COVID and COVID situation, that's 10 to 15% gap maybe. And then in addition to that, to bring universal foundation literacy to everyone. And I think we need to focus on speed, because it cannot take 3 years anymore. What we are proposing, and we are sharing with you, is that our work in 2 different districts of India, Shamli in Uttar Pradesh and Sambalpur in Odisha, these are 2 low-performing districts of India that were handed to us by the former Secretary of Education, Anita Karwal, in 2022. And we began working there end of June, August, and November, in that time frame. And we managed to see tremendous outcome. You will see evidence of that work today a little bit. And also, you will see a lot of it on the 14th and 15th, when we are going to redo the MOOT, Massive Open Online Training, on 14th and 15th of this March. We're offering MOOT. We're offering it on a rolling basis to governments in different languages of India and of course different languages of the world. And how we're offering that is firstly our curriculum, the ALfA curriculum is available in 31 languages, of which 15 are Indian languages, another 15 plus international languages. These are absolutely essential to get the word out there, that people can train with us in the massive open online training. They can be trained as trainers in their own languages. There's to be some connection between us and them, in English perhaps in the beginning, but those trainers will then take and replicate the MOOT experience. We'll give them the wherewithal, we'll give them all the extra training that's necessary so they can go and make MOOT possible in their own countries, in their own regional languages and contexts. So the proposition is very simple, that there are new and more different ways in which you can engage the children. So let's press on before I tell you what they are, and let's go with very open mind that this is possible to reach foundational literacy and numeracy to the children in just 45 days. And that is with 2 periods a day. If you give 1 period a day, it's 90 days. We're saying that's hardly any blip in the whole year's academic offering. So we're talking about 5% to 10% of a year's academic time, and that's all. And that leverages the rest of learning. The experimental work we have done here in the laboratories of schools in Lucknow, we'll be sharing the experiences of some budget private schools and private schools. And the reason to share that today from those classrooms is because the classroom experience is in English. But on the 14th and 15th, we'll be sharing with you a lot more experiences from the field, where the experience is in Hindi and in the context of villages and slums, where our work is going at a great speed. We have grown last year from 20 schools in Sambalpur in Odisha and Shamli in Uttar Pradesh, 2 low-performing districts. We have grown from there to 15 districts of India, 15 districts of Uttar Pradesh, which is a massive improvement from 1 district to 15 districts in a matter of 5 months. We've also been able to get agreements to work in Maldives, where UNICEF is supporting a pilot and for nationwide implementation for 2 years. So I think we are also keen that other countries take it up. We are engaging right now several governments in Africa and in Asia. I hope it will be many more countries, but we have only just begun, and we need you as our ambassadors. We need you as our champions. Once you understand and agree and you try it out in your classes, we hope you'll become trainers. And we hope you'll carry the mission forward. This is all for free. It's complimentary. If you take the quiz, then you're able to get access to our materials. And also, of course, we'll offer you a certificate and then form far more training. And you'll be able to become our trainers as well, if you wish. So over to Tom. Tom Delaney is our trainer for MOOT. And Tom is from Australia. He's our youth volunteer, as well as, you can say, master trainer, because he has exemplified the spirit of ALfA. And he has trained so many people in ALfA, not just for India. He taught the Maldives, 1,500 teachers and principals and MOE staff of the Maldives. He has trained many, many people across the world, like in Peru, in Lebanon. We are working with Borderless NGO that is working with Syrian refugees. So the scope is limitless and the potential is enormous. The opportunity is awaiting. There is a gap out there that needs to be filled. We need to just go on and try out something new and different. If we say it works, then give it a try. You know, it's only 1 period a day or 2 periods a day. And that's only for 45 days. And I hope that the world will embrace it with your help. Thank you so much indeed. And over to Tom Delaney, our master trainer and youth volunteer from Australia. He speaks perfect Hindi and perfect Urdu.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Sunita, for that really rousing speech. I think I felt quite moved during that. Just to briefly introduce myself, I'm originally from Australia, but I've been living in India and working here for many years with Dr. Sunita and her wonderful team. And my main experience is working in the slums, in the urban poor communities of Lucknow and also Delhi, where Sunita's materials, this Accelerating Learning for All program, which we are so excited to be sharing with you today. I've seen the power of this on the ground. I've seen kids who are in school, they're struggling for 4 or 5 years in school, and they're not even able to recognize some letters. I've seen those kids using this program in 2 or 3 months, learn to read newspapers, learn to read storybooks. And I've seen the difference that that makes in their life, in the lives of their families. So that's the program that we are so excited to be sharing with you today. I just want to start off by handing back to Samvida ma'am for, we're just going to have a lighting of the lamp. This is a custom here in India that we start a ceremony by lighting a lamp. So we're lighting the lamp of education, and then we'll go on to the rest of the program.
Thank you, Sunita ma'am and Tom, for bringing to light the essence of FLM. Our behavior is fueled by three main sources: desire, emotion, and knowledge. Knowledge is the treasure of a wise man. It is power. All our activities should be governed by the light of knowledge. Let us light the lamp of learning to spread its radiance far and wide, followed by a speech from the Honorable Defense Minister of India, Shri Rajnath Singh Ji.
May this light spread far all over the world for peace and harmony. May the Lord keep this light always burning forever and ever. May this light spread far all over the world for peace and harmony.
आप सभी को मेरा नमस्कार। जब मुझे पता चला कि सुश्री गांधी शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में ऐसे प्रयास कर रही हैं, तो मुझे व्यक्तिगत रूप से बेहद खुशी हुई। ध्यान देना, देवी संस्थान परिवार के सभी सदस्यों, आगे परिवार की मुखिया सुश्री लॉन्च के लिए गांधी जी अपनी हार्दिक बधाई और शुभकामनाएं देता हूँ। A paradigm shift in FLM, how to make India foundationally literate and numerate in months, not years. निश्चित ही आज के समय में बड़ा रिलेवेंट है। फाउंडेशनल लिटरेसी एक क्यू ह्यूमन राइट है। यह इंडिविजुअल से लेकर सोशल, नेशनल और इंटरनेशनल लेवल तक सोशियो इकोनॉमिक ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन के सबसे महत्वपूर्ण एलिमेंट में से एक है। हमें ऐसे प्रयासों की जरूरत है जो फाउंडेशनल लिटरेसी को न केवल प्री पैंडेमिक की स्थिति में बल्कि उससे कहीं ऊपर हमें पहुंचा सके। इस दिशा में मैं सुनीता गांधी जी को उनके कंसेप्ट और प्रोग्राम एक्सेलरेटिंग लर्निंग फॉर ऑल अथवा ALfA के लिए बधाई देना चाहूंगा, जो आप देश के विभिन्न हिस्सों में संचालित कर रही हैं। साथियों, इस प्रोग्राम के माध्यम से लोगों को 90 डेज में लिटरेट बनाया जा सकता है। मैं आशा करता हूं कि आने वाले समय में बड़ी संख्या में लोग इससे जुड़ेंगे और इसे सपोर्ट करने के लिए आगे आएंगे। यहां मैं एक और बात को रेखांकित करना चाहूंगा कि अगर पैंडेमिक ने हमारी अब तक चली आ रही शिक्षा व्यवस्था को डिसरप्ट करने का कार्य किया है, तो उससे उबरने के लिए भी हमको डिसरप्टिव टेक्नोलॉजीज का प्रयोग कर डिसरप्टिव लर्निंग और लिटरेसी की ओर आगे बढ़ना होगा। यह हमें ध्यान में रखना चाहिए। ऐसे में डिसरप्टिव लर्निंग की ओर ध्यान देना और उसे बढ़ावा देना आज की यह महत्वपूर्ण जरूरत है। यहां मैं सुश्री सुनीता गांधी की एक पुस्तक डिसरप्टिव लिटरेसी, ए रोड मैप फॉर अर्जेंट ग्लोबल एक्शन के लॉन्च के लिए भी उनको बधाई देता हूं।
In mind, let us start the proceedings of the conference to bring about a change and accelerate learning for all. We once again welcome the participants here from 40 countries around the world. And a gentle reminder for all, keep posting your thoughts and questions in the live comments. We will be addressing them. You will be receiving a certificate of participation, sharing of links, how to access e-learning materials, teacher guides, and toolkits at the end of the program, provided you are a part of the program till the closure. At the end, there awaits an exciting quiz, which will also reward you with an achievement certificate. As the questions in the quiz will be from the program, we ask for your keen attention during the program. And now I would request our youth volunteer, Master Trainer Tom Delaney.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Samvida ma'am, for that lovely, lovely prayer. I was really quite moved by hearing those children's voices. And as you said, as Mother Teresa said, we need to pray to God, but we also need to take action ourselves. And so that's what this session is all about. It's all about taking action to change the education system, to be the change we want to see. We talk a lot about how we would love to see the education system transformed. Well, we're gathered here today with teachers, which is the most exciting profession in the world. And I think it's our responsibility and it's our privilege to be shaping the next generation. So as Samvida ma'am shared, I would really love it if we are all active in the comments. So there's going to be plenty of time today for Q&A. This is my first ever training that I'm running on YouTube Live. I've run many Zoom trainings, many physical trainings, in-person trainings, but this is all a bit experimental. So the comments I'm coming in the live chat. So we'll have plenty of times today where we are asking questions of you. And please do respond in the chat. Please also share your own questions. So once again, a very warm welcome to this massive open online training. The questions which we started out this whole program with, is it actually possible for a child to learn to read in months, not years? Here in India and in many places around the world, the norm is that children take several years to learn how to read in school. And this is very time consuming. It's a very laborious process, and many children fall through the cracks of the education system. So the questions that we asked ourselves at the start of this journey towards creating this program, Accelerating Learning for All, this is the question, this impossible question: can a child learn to read in months, not years? And can children learn to read in pairs rather than the teacher teaching them, explaining to them? Children learn to read in pairs with each other. So we'll be showing you today footage from classrooms in India and several other countries. And I hope that you will agree with us by the end of the session that it is possible, it is being done. And I hope that will inspire you to try this out in your own classroom and experience the power of this methodology for yourself. It's a little bit like a paradigm shift. It's like 50 years ago, we had landline phones. 50 years ago, most of us were using the landline. Right? In my grandparents' house in Australia today, there is still the landline phone. And this technology stayed with us for many years, but until the smartphone came. When the smartphone came, this was a paradigm shift, a transformation of education, of communication technology. So when this change happened, the question is, what will bring this change in education? We want to see this change in education also, this paradigm shift. So before we get underway, I'd like to just warm up a little bit, practice our interaction in the chat box. So I've got a couple of questions which I'd love for you to all post in the chat box, please, in the live comments of YouTube. Can you please all just post your name, which country you are from, or which state you are from if you're in India. So your name, your state or country, and your favorite book or movie. So I'm going to ask my co-panelists here today to also introduce themselves in the same way. And meanwhile, please do post in the chat box. This is what we'd love to hear from you, just as a warm-up question, because there's going to be lots of interaction today in the live comments. So I want you to please all stay present with us and interact with us. So please post in the chat, what's your name, where you are from, and what is your favorite book or movie? So I'll turn first to Samvida ma'am. As you introduce yourself, please keep posting in the chat box. Samvida ma'am, I'm very keen to know. I know your name is Samvida. You're from India. Which state are you from originally?
I'm from Uttarakhand.
From Uttarakhand. Okay, yeah. Beautiful state, right? And can I hear what's your favorite book or movie?
My favorite movie is My Fair Lady.
Okay, I don't know this one.
Okay,
My Fair Lady.
it's a musical movie.
Okay.
It's about transformation, how a girl,
Okay.
how she blooms from a girl into a beautiful lady. That we
Okay,
actually
wonderful,
call.
wonderful.
Yeah, and it's a musical thing, so a lot of songs, a lot of dances.
Okay,
How free-spirited you're supposed to be.
wonderful.
How
Just like you.
Thank you so much, and you, all of us,
Okay,
all the participants here,
wonderful.
and how beautifully we can connect with the little ones, no matter what the age is.
Right, beautiful. What a lovely movie. And let's hear from Dr. Sunita. Sunita is notorious for working about 18 hours a day. So I'm not sure if you ever get the time to read or watch movies, but what's your favorite book and movie? And please do keep posting in the chat box. We're keen to hear from you also, your name, your country or state, and your favorite book or movie. So Sunita ma'am, what's your favorite?
Tom, that's a tough question. You're right. I work incessantly, but I do read a lot on and off when I'm on journeys, especially. Actually, I do focus on books that are very purpose-oriented, however. So I like the work of ALfA Cohn. And his book, The Case Against Competition, his book, Punished by Rewards. Some of these books are really fascinating. Of course, The Tipping Point is a very good book. I've enjoyed reading books around education and that illuminate my thought processes.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And he's a breakaway thinker.
He is.
So
he's very good.
Yes,
he's very good. I would also recommend ALfA Cohn. And I'm just having a look in the comments here. So thank you so much. Many of you are introducing yourself. Many of you are from Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh. And I'm seeing some of the favorite books. The Kite Runner, fantastic, wonderful book. I also really enjoyed that one. Three Idiots. Yeah, that's one of my favorites, absolutely. And here we are, the Three Idiots today. So yes, wonderful. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. And we're here today from many states of India and from many countries around the world. Fantastic. Really good to see the interaction. And please stay active in the chat box. We'll be having many times throughout today where we're interacting in the chat box. So it's all a little bit experimental, but I'm sure it will go well. So moving forwards with the program today, and just going back to my PowerPoint. So I think as we were discussing earlier, this is the paradigm shift in education, moving from a landline phone to a smartphone. Now, one of the key parts of ALfA, of Accelerating Learning for All, is that we want to embed the 6 C's of education. The 6 C's, right? We're talking about character, citizenship, communication, collaboration, creativity. We want to embed this in literacy and numeracy instruction. So the traditional method of education, teaching from a textbook in which the teacher is at the front, they're just talking, this is no way for our students to have these skills inculcated, have these qualities inculcated. But as we'll see in the videos starting very shortly of classroom implementation, we'll see how the process of paired learning is very powerful in inculcating these values, these qualities in our children. So that's what we're all about. This is a brief structure of the session today. First, we'll talk briefly, we've already discussed briefly about the FLN crisis. We'll introduce the ALfA methodology. We'll be comparing and contrasting the differences between ALfA and a traditional classroom. And we'll be looking specifically at paired learning, this process of children working with each other, teaching each other, helping each other learn, which is the key part of ALfA. Today's session, this morning session, or wherever you are around the world, this session currently is focusing on literacy. So we'll be doing several literacy activities together. And I hope if you are there with a partner, you can do it with your partner or by yourself. I hope you'll participate in those activities. We'll be looking again at how ALfA embeds the 6 C skills in its program. And finally, we'll be looking through some of the learning materials in ALfA. Then I certainly hope you'll be staying till the end. And there's a fun quiz to go at the end of the show today. So if you stay to the end, you do the quiz, you do well on that, you'll be getting access to these ALfA e-learning materials, and you'll be able to try them out in your classroom. I'm sure that will be really exciting. The format today, we'll mainly be watching videos. We've got a collection of short videos, 3-4 minute videos of classroom implementation, showcasing different aspects of the ALfA program. So we'll be watching a video, then we'll be having a very brief panel discussion about it, and we'll be hearing your thoughts in the comments. We'll be responding to those thoughts. Then we'll see another video. So that's the main modality today. It won't be too much of us talking. We'll mainly be looking at videos from the classrooms, from the ground. There'll also be some hands-on activities which we'll be doing. So please do participate in those. And there will be, of course, lots of chance to respond in the comments. So please be active there. Those who do the quiz at the end, you'll be receiving a certificate. You'll also be receiving access to the ALfA e-learning materials. We're really excited to be providing those for you for free. And we'll be so excited to see your photos, videos, comments as you implement these over the next 2 months. See the transformation it brings in your classroom. So very briefly, Sunita's already touched upon this, but the FLN crisis, the scale of the crisis we are facing is huge, right? I can speak from my personal experience working in the slums of Lucknow, where the schools were shut for more than a year. I know many countries around the world have faced school closures. And we've seen that many children, when they're coming back to school, they've forgotten basic skills. Even what few skills they had from before the crisis, they've forgotten these basic skills. Now, we also know, especially in India, but also in low and middle income countries around the world, even before the pandemic, over half of children were not able to learn basic reading and writing and arithmetic. So an education system is failing us. If half of the students are unable to learn to read and write, then we need a radical rethink about our education system. And that is exactly what today's session is about, equipping you with some practical tools for how to change in your classroom to ensure that no child is left behind, that everyone learns these key foundational skills. It's the need of the hour, right? We're talking about the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, unless we achieve basic literacy for all, these SDGs are totally out of reach. Foundational literacy and numeracy is the key to achieving the SDGs. It's the key in many ways. If we're looking at ending poverty and hunger, unless and until all children, all adults are able to learn to read and write, we're not going to end poverty or hunger. If we're looking at gender and social equality, it's crucial there. I've seen in my own slum community, I've seen women who've learned to read, the difference it's made in their lives, the sort of respect they get from their community, from their family, once they've learned to read. Looking at innovation, talking about climate change. This program is quite eco-friendly, you'll be pleased to know. So it's available as e-learning materials. Also, the physical books are very thin. They don't use much paper. And we've also got components about climate change. So our program is also very much in sync with the greening of education. Finally, if we look at civic engagement and peace and justice, unfortunately, in these days, democracy around the world is under threat from authoritarianism. And until and unless people know how to read, they cannot stand up for their rights effectively. So if we're looking, whatever SDG we're looking at, literacy is the key to achieving it. So that's why it's so exciting to be here with you today, discussing this crucial topic. And it's terrific, the work you are all doing around the world, different states of India, different countries around the world. It's fantastic, the work you are doing in the classrooms. Hats off to you. This is the work that we need to build a better future. So without further ado then, let's go on to our first video. We've been talking briefly about ALfA, what it is. We've been alluding to this process of paired learning. Now it's time to see what it looks like in the classroom. We're going to be sharing a video with you for 3 or 4 minutes. Please watch carefully, and we're very interested to hear your thoughts after in the chat box. This is a compare and contrast video to see some of the differences between ALfA and a traditional classroom. So let's switch over to the video, and we'll be very interested to hear your thoughts.
Thank you, Tom. I'm sure all will agree. Rote methods of teaching and learning in the traditional classrooms are holding hostage the enormous potential of the children. The crisis in learning is a crisis of pedagogy, both how we teach the foundational skills and how quickly we teach them can be taken care of by ALfA learning. In a nutshell, it is a child-friendly process-led pedagogy in which children work in pairs and learn to decode and blend sounds to make words from the beginning. Meanwhile, the teacher's role is to motivate and support this process. Ask, wait, but not tell or teach. Before we start the interaction, let us have a look at the audiovisual on traditional classroom versus ALfA classroom.
Today we will do question and answers, okay? So you have to copy it. Question number 1, the wall. Okay, and full stop. So you have to copy this question. What was Tim hitting at the wall? Tim was hitting a ball at the wall.
Who sat on a rat? The cat sat on a rat. Who sat on a mat? The cat sat on the mat.
So today we will learn the table of 2. You have to learn the table by heart.
2 is the 2, 2 to the 4, 2 3 the 6, 2 4 the 8, 2 5 the 10. What is the first picture? Rishi. What is the first sound? Rick. What is the second picture? Sakur. What is the first sound? Sh. What is the third picture? Alu. What is the first sound? H. What word will you get when you add the three sounds together? Rich.
In traditional classroom, children fear marks and exams. In ALfA pedagogy, children are engaged in joyful learning. They are driven by curiosity.
Hello ma'am. Welcome ma'am. I want to buy few things. Yes ma'am. I want this book. It is of 100 rupees. And I want this book. It is of 50 rupees. And I want this bag. It is of 5 rupees. Plus 100. Plus 50. Plus 5. Equal to 155 rupees. Thank you, ma'am. Welcome. Bye-bye. Bye.
Why are we back on Rajnath video?
What are the differences you notice between the ALfA and traditional classrooms? So some of the comments and answers that we get will also be highlighting there. So please do put some thought, make a good response, and your response will also be highlighted on the screen. So let me turn first to Sunita ma'am, who is of course the founder of ALfA. What are the different? What is the key difference in your mind between ALfA and the traditional classroom?
Well, there's a sea of difference. Firstly, if you look at the transaction of learning, in the traditional system, it is the teacher-led process. So teacher is the master puppeteer. Even when it is group work, she's assigning the groups, she's giving work to the groups, she's doing all the work, not the children, right? Even when it is child-centric. Of course, child-centricity depends on the teacher. Some teachers make it highly child-centric. Some teachers do it for 5% of the time. Some don't do it at all. They're just lecturing. So we need to move away from those processes. We don't think this is the best way to learn. It is better to have the agency with the children. Let them learn with each other. Now, the question always comes, is it possible? Because I'm sure teachers have tried that, and it can also be chaos. So this is where our research has come in, how to package it in a way that the children are engaged on their own, even the little ones can work in pairs. Many teachers initially will say, oh, no, my Balvatika, my kindergarten children cannot work in pairs. And not just for 5% of the time, 95% of the time, the modality of learning, the transaction is peer-to-peer or child-to-child or between two children. We don't so much feel it's as good as, say, group work, So group work is good, but only once in a while. But what is the modality of learning is transactional learning between two of us.
So you're saying the key difference between ALfA and the traditional classroom is, in the traditional classroom, it's just a lecture. The teacher is addressing all of the students at once. Whereas in ALfA, the transaction of learning is primarily between students. The teacher is there as a galvanizer. We'll be unpacking that a bit later in the session, what exactly the teacher's role is. But the teacher is not the one who's filling the information. It's not this like the brain is a box and we're filling the information in. Rather, the students are interacting with each other. They're learning through that process.
So when we talk about differences, Tom, the difference is huge because here it's not teacher doing the work.
Right.
In ALfA, it is the children doing the work.
Mhm.
Teacher sitting in the corner.
Mhm.
In fact, teachers all the time in the world. The first time we started implementing in Lucknow just recently, and a teacher texted me. She said, "Oh, for the first time, I can do my planner in my own classroom." And the teachers in different schools that we work with in the government schools as well as in the private schools, teachers have reported they don't have to carry any homework for checking.
So you're saying it's good news for the teacher as well.
Double the amount of written work.
Yeah.
No, I mean, every parent wants my child. Where's the written work? Where's the written work? And here you're doing double the written work joyfully. The children are doing. They're doing such creative work that you can't imagine. So
Wonderful.
you'll go into the classrooms a little more
Wonderful.
and see how is it different, and you'll make your own determination.
Wonderful.
We don't want you to necessarily just believe us.
Mhm.
In fact, we want you to try it out.
Mhm.
And really it works like magic. But you
Wonderful.
need 3 or 4 ingredients in place.
Right. So we'll be coming to that very shortly as to what the ingredients are of ALfA. Meanwhile, I want to hear your thoughts in the chat box as well. You saw the video, you saw some of the different approaches of the traditional and the ALfA classroom. Very interested to hear your thoughts in the comments, and we'll be highlighting those comments coming in at the bottom of the screen, and maybe we'll be addressing those as well. Meanwhile, I want to hear also Samvida ma'am's thoughts. Samvida ma'am is a principal here at a school which is implementing ALfA in the younger grades, I think kindergarten and grade 1. So we're very interested to hear your thoughts on the difference, what difference it is making for your children.
See, for me, the joy of learning was very much evident from here. And when it happened in the classes, you saw in the traditional way, some child was, somebody was sleeping, yawning, not writing, following the teacher. The teacher's back was towards the children. They were just facing towards the whiteboard. The scenario is completely different here. You see that magic taking place. Each child actually joyfully involved in the activities, teaching and learning, because they're playing the role of a teacher as well as the student. The teacher is not at all in command. It is the children who take over.
So you're saying it's a child-led classroom.
Absolutely.
The children are actually directing the process.
Absolutely.
And I guess in doing so, that's how they're developing those skills of communication,
Yes,
collaboration,
asking
citizenship.
questions. You could see more interaction out there in the classes.
Yeah, wow, so powerful. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts in the chat box. I know some good comments are coming in. As you saw that video, the compare and contrast video between ALfA and the traditional approach. We're also going, I understand that, of course, many of us will have some doubts. And I myself had many doubts when I first started this approach. I thought, surely it's not possible. So the next video we'll be seeing very shortly is giving voice to some of those doubts. And they're legitimate questions, right? They're questions like, well, can children really learn in pairs? Can even young children learn in pairs? Is it possible? So I think it's very fair to give voice to those questions. And the proof is really in the pudding, right? As to whether this actually works. In Hindi, we have a saying, "Pehle istemal kare, fir vishwas kare," right? First use it and then only believe it. So that's what we feel also. I hope you'll be convinced by the videos, but then you'll be more convinced when you actually try it out in your own classroom. That will be the proof. So
I think there are two beliefs we need to challenge.
Yes.
Because it's all about challenging our own beliefs at times.
Yes.
We are the constraint to the new. We are the constraint to the innovative. We are constraint to the transformative and disruptive. And the reason is that our definitions in our own minds are based on precedents, what we have done, what our teachers have, how they've taught, how we've been learning in the B.Ed colleges.
Yes.
And surely they cannot be wrong, but surely it is wrong. This is what we need to say. This is our belief, challenging our own belief systems and saying, look, we need to go dramatically different. It's not just a little bit different. So there's always that that question of incremental change, paradigm shift.
Yes.
I think right now is not the time for incremental change. We've
Yes.
tried incremental change for centuries
Yes.
and decades.
Yes.
It has not worked. Results have even gone down.
Yeah.
So what are we proud of? We
Sure.
need to think afresh. We all have the capacity.
Sure.
These teachers who have transitioned into ALfA, it took place overnight, literally. But they started to believe when they saw the first day children smiling and having such good time. Even peer learning is not something that is a mystery. A lot of people have tried it all over the world. People have done paired learning. But we're talking about paired learning as a modality of teaching, which means they're actually sitting 100% of the time in pairs.
Right.
This and facing each other, not the teacher.
Right.
This
That's a paradigm shift.
Is a paradigm shift.
Definitely.
And not just that, empowering the children so they learn by themselves. So teachers not explaining the concept. Teachers are saying, look, children, adjectives are describing words. Or teachers are saying, look, here's how you add these numbers, or here's how you divide these numbers. The teacher's not teaching at all.
Yeah.
How is that
Incredible.
possible? How can the teacher not teach? So the materials come in, the learning
Yes.
materials
Yes.
are
Yes.
critical.
Yes.
All the learning materials are designed
Yes.
by practically people
Yes.
who are 40 plus,
Yes.
who don't understand the time,
Yes.
who have been teaching in the old way forever, or they're not even teaching.
Yes.
They're publishers.
So that's the difference with the ALfA materials. Is obviously you're a teacher, I'm working there at the ground, and that's the process. We're designing it with the child in mind. Not so much with the teacher in mind, not so much with the parent in mind. We're designing with the child in mind.
And ALfA was not easy.
No, definitely. A lot of work to develop.
2000, I took on a project in Iceland. Iceland's first 2 charter schools. 2002, invited Howard Gardner and many other experts around the world to come to Iceland and work with me. That was a laboratory. Won the bid to run Iceland's first 2 charter schools. Then I have a laboratory in Czech Republic. In India, we have many laboratories. And I think the educators don't have time to research. Educators are too busy running the mill. They have to finish that syllabus.
Yes.
And I think that's where innovation is not happening. Otherwise, everybody has a capacity to pose new questions.
Definitely.
There's a risk of, there's a fear of reprimand. There's a fear of the superintendent will say such and such. There's a fear that what will happen if my parent doesn't like this or that. So teachers are not daring enough because the system is not daring enough.
Sure.
And we need to make it more daring. So one belief is teachers' belief.
Yes.
Second belief is belief in the potential of the child.
Right.
We think, oh, he's only 5 years old.
Right.
How can he learn to read a newspaper?
Right.
I mean, that's just illogical. It's impossible.
Yeah.
How can they learn to read in 45 days? Impossible. So we don't trust the children, and we need to trust the children.
Absolutely.
We need to believe that they have the potential to learn more. We're just holding back their potential.
Definitely. They're unpolished gems. They're and that's my experience in the slum as well. Is I've met kids who their parents tell me, this child he'll never be able to learn to read. He's too dumb. I'm like, just give me 2 months and you'll see. And it's incredible to see those kids. I'm just saying, as we're talking, some great comments are coming in, and thank you for highlighting them. So I'm seeing that Suja Ahmed is saying, ALfA learning students oriented. Traditional classroom is mainly teacher oriented. Absolutely, I agree. So it's about whether it's student centric or teacher centric, student led or teacher led. Arvind Kumar is saying, ALfA class gives real education. Traditional teaching method gives only bookish knowledge. Very true. The comment highlighted here on screen, ALfA Classroom is transaction of learning between students and environment. It's really outstanding. The teacher will understand the uniqueness of every child and follow innovative pedagogy to achieve. So thank you so much for your interaction in the chat. This is what we're looking for, because of course, ALfA is all about interaction, right? It's not about a lecture. So if we are just lecturing to you, if it's just one way, then we have failed today, right? So we need that genuine interaction through the chat. So keep it up, please. So now, as I was alluding earlier, there's obviously many legitimate questions, legitimate doubts we may have about how does this process of paired learning work? Is it really possible, especially for young children? So that's what we're going on to the next video to discuss. The next video we'll be looking at this in the form of a role play, right? This video will be showing what are some of the questions that we in a traditional mindset may have about the ALfA classroom, and hopefully it will be addressing some of those questions. So so that's what we'll be showing next. Yeah.
I wanted to say quickly that one of the persons commenting here is Arvind Kumar Balian, and I'm really delighted that he's here, because this is the very first time we implemented ALfA on a large scale in a district called Shamli, as I mentioned earlier, which is a low-performing district of India. And Arvind Kumar Balian is a teacher of class 2 of this school called PS Carey, Primary School Carey, in a village. And so you can imagine the conditions in which he's teaching. And yet, he says within 35 days, his children surpass the goals of foundational literacy and numeracy for his grade level for 35 days. We have made a video of his classroom, and we'll be sharing that with the participants later today, or at least in the 14th and 15th, because the video is in Hindi. But we'll try to accommodate that today with some transcript at the bottom. And I'd like to say that Arvind managed to also teach his children the entire year's course book within 45-50 days. So that seems impossible, but here he is. And Arvindji can comment, and you can ask your questions in the chat with Arvindji. How did he make it possible? Because it's not just, of course, he's an exemplary teacher, but many, many teachers have done it who have had the two belief systems we talked about: belief in the children's potential and belief in ALfA, and the need for new paradigm.
Wonderful.
Today we will do question and answers, okay? So you have to copy it. Question number 1. The wall. Okay, and full stop. So you have to copy this question. What was Tim hitting at the wall? Tim was hitting a ball at the wall.
Who sat on a rat? The cat sat on a rat. Who sat on a mat? The cat sat on a mat.
So today, children, we will learn the table of 2. You have to learn the table by heart.
2 is the 2, 2 to the 4, 2 3 the 6, 2 4 the 8, 2 5 the 10. What is the first picture? Rishi. What is the first sound? Rick. What is the second picture? Sakur. What is the first sound? Sh. What is the third picture? Ali. What is the first sound? What word will you get when you add the 3 sounds together? Sh.
In traditional classroom, children fear marks and exams. In ALfA pedagogy, children are engaged in joyful learning. They are driven by curiosity.
Hello, ma'am. Welcome, ma'am. I want to buy few things. Yes, ma'am. I want this book. It is of 100 rupees. And I want this book. It is of 50 rupees. And I want this bag. It is of 5 rupees. Plus 100. Plus 50. Plus 5. Equal to 155 rupees. Thank you, ma'am. Welcome. Bye-bye. Bye.
Wow, so that was fantastic. Incredible, very interesting role play there to see. And we've got the chai coming. Fantastic. I hope you guys also grab a cup of chai or coffee, because we've got a very fascinating session to come. So very interesting, the doubts that Miss Sharma was raising. And I must confess, I had some similar doubts myself when I started using the ALfA methodology. So let me play a little bit of the devil's advocate. I've got two wonderful pedagogues here on either side, principal and well, both geniuses. So let me ask you some of my devil's advocate questions. So I'll start with you, Samvida ma'am.
Yes.
So, and definitely some of you will also have these questions, right? So please do post in the chat box any questions or doubts that you have at this stage, right? We've just started, we've just scratched the surface, but what are some of the questions or doubts you would have at this stage about the ALfA process? Please post them here and we'll be bringing them up and we'll be addressing them throughout the session. So let me raise some of my questions. So ma'am, we are trying to use the ALfA with even 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. I know many 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, sometimes they are so impatient, sometimes they are not paying attention, they're not focusing. So how can they teach each other? How can they sit in a pair? Won't it just be total chaos in the classroom?
See, I will not use the word chaos. Yes, I'll use the word noise is there, but it is a very, very productive noise. It's like music to our ears, because when we started this in the class, initially the teachers felt a lot of noise, but then they saw what is actually happening. It was something very constructive. You could see the atmosphere where every child knew, had that conviction that I am the best. Each one hand holding, like we have that buddy system, and it's random. Every day they would enter the class, pick up an ice cream stick on which another child's name written. So they know that they have to be paired with this child, and they themselves look for their partner and they have their buddies.
Okay.
And as we see these classes, we saw the joy was very evident there. They're all question based. The children are not only asking questions, they're making their own questions. And then these questions are being transformed into assessments. So these are student-made assessments. Teacher has no role in this.
So you're saying even such young students, they have the capability of making questions?
Absolutely. Initially, we took baby steps. There were 1 or 2 questions coming up. But then gradually, over the passage of time, we could see 10, 20, it kept on increasing. And now what we are doing it, we're having our own repository of these questions, these assessment papers. And as a project, it's going on with Gomti Nagar Extension Campus, City Montessori School, and Aliganj too. So we also keep exchanging, these repositories there. We keep picking, we keep adding it on.
So children are making their own questions for each other. That's incredible.
Absolutely.
And now I come to think of it, I know that my parents tell me when I was young, when I was 4 or 5, I used to ask questions incessantly, right? I would always be asking, especially why. So why questions? Why are we doing this? Why do I need to do this? Why do I have to go to bed? All of these why questions. Now, the sad thing is very often in the traditional education system, we're discouraging children from asking questions, right? In the traditional education system, the child who at 4 or 5 is asking questions, by the age of 10 or 12, they're just copying the answers. They're not asking questions anymore. So that's the key difference, as you're saying with
This
ALfA.
is what we saw in
in
the traditional and the ALfA classroom.
Right.
Teacher takes a back seat.
Right.
She says,
So-
relax. She just notices what is going on,
Right.
making up points,
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
preparing for the next.
So I'll turn to the comments very soon. Please keep posting your comments. Any questions, doubts, queries you have at this stage, right? We've just scratched the surface, but any questions you're having in your mind at this stage about the ALfA process. Let me turn then, putting my devil's advocate hat back on again to Sunita. And so Sunita, what happens supposing 2 children are sitting in a pair? Now, supposing both of them are at ground zero, neither of them recognize a single letter, right? Now, how are they supposed to help each other if neither of them know how to read even a single letter? How is it possible?
Oh, this is the magic. So basically, it is the pedagogy of known to the unknown. Children, even as young as 2.5, 3 years of age, can articulate a lot. They can speak a lot. Speaking is a natural skill. Reading is not. They can say, this is table, this is flower, this is whatever, this is kind of flowers, get me this, get me that. So they know the environment. The question is, how do we package our learning in a way that the children are able to use what they know to create the next learning? So it scaffolds from known to unknown. The new unknown becomes a known, and then you build on all the repository of knowns the next step. So it's a very scientific, systemic process, and system design process in which the children are on their own scaffolding learning from one step to the other. The struggle that they have is very minor. And to the extent there is struggle, we don't want teachers to come in and jump in and answer things for them. We don't even want the teachers to run the class, you know. We want them to sit in a corner and just observe. You know, if children raise their hands, this is not what we want. This is still the old style. They're actually working it out among themselves. If they cannot figure it out, they go to the next pair. And
so you're saying that process of struggle is actually quite constructive.
Yeah,
so
it's
two kids who are struggling, they're like, what is this letter? I don't know. Like, let's figure it out together. That's the process of learning.
Yeah, see, they don't even have to read letters
Mm-hmm.
because it's not unknown to unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly, if you look at whole language approach to learning, which is widespread across the world and here in India also, whole language, of course, there are many proponents of that. I'm sure many of them in this, attendance group also believe perhaps it's working.
Mm-hmm.
But research is showing it's not working. Research
Mm-hmm.
is showing
Mm-hmm.
that phonics is working
Mm-hmm.
better than whole language. Now, in phonics also, oftentimes it is unknown to unknown. How? B says ba. Neither the child knows B, nor he knows ba.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're saying B says ba. How about like in ALfA? This is totally different again. We're using phonics, but in a vastly different way. We go to
moving
unknown
from
to
the
unknown.
picture to the sound.
Picture to the
Got
sound.
it.
So you say, okay, what is this? So this is batak. What is the first sound of batak? Ba. What is this? This is apple. What is the first sound of apple? A.
Now,
So
I just want
they know.
to interrupt there for those of you who are not speaking Hindi speakers here, those who are English speakers. When Sunita said battak, that's the Hindi word, not the English word. Battak means duck in Hindi.
Yeah.
So I'm just seeing that some excellent questions and the comments are also coming in. So thank you so much for your interaction. One point is, what about teacher training regarding the ALfA pedagogy and how to transform teachers with their own methods? So in a sense, today is one experiment in this line, right? Obviously, if we were just delivering a lecture to you today, right, about the ALfA process, it would be very hypocritical and also very ineffective, right? Because ALfA is all about interaction, the interaction between the learners. So that's the experiment today. I'm not sure how well it's going to work, but I think so far it's working really well. So thank you so much for your interactions in the chat. If we're here in a physical training, if there was a room of you here, what we'd be doing is we'd be making pairs, right? You'd be sitting in pairs, you'd be discussing these points in pairs, you'd be doing activities together in pairs. So the process of the training should reflect the message, right? There should not be a disjoint between the medium and the message. It should be the same. One more point is coming in here, saying in ALfA, how do teachers prepare for the students? Is any source of materials for free is available or not? Okay, fantastic. So yes, absolutely, right? You'll be receiving these free e-learning materials. And in fact, our very next video is going to be having a look at the process of using these materials. So we'll be going on to that very shortly. So
the emphasis on process.
That's a really good point, though, that the materials are important. They're very good, but the key part is not the books themselves, right? The book can be used for anything, right? But the key part is the process. So even if you don't have the book for whatever reason, if you're getting this process of paired learning, this pedagogy, that is the key part. Very unfortunately, I've seen these are great books, but I've seen them be used in the old way, in the rote learning way, in which I'm just saying, repeat after me, CAT, cat, DOG, dog, right? Now, if you're using even a great material, if you're using it the wrong way, that's not going to be helpful, right? If I'm using my hammer like a screwdriver, it's not going to be very effective. So the materials are there, you'll be provided with them, provided that you stay to the end, you do the quiz, you'll be getting access to these materials, but the key part of it is the process, the pedagogy. So let's move forwards then to the next video, which is showcasing the literacy materials specifically. The first two videos were about the ALfA process in general. This next video is looking specifically at literacy and the process for teaching literacy. So let's move to that.
Okay, kids, as we have done random pairing now you are sitting with your new partners, right? So just meet her. She is Tina. Okay? Hello, everyone. And he's Toto. All right? Tina, look towards the module 1. What is this? This is a duck. Great job. Now you ask me the question. Okay. What is the first sound of duck, Toto? The first sound of duck is duh. Well done. Now you ask me the question. Did you like Tina and Toto? Yes. Okay. Now the way I was doing, in the same way you will do the same conversation, same kind of conversation with your partners. All right? Work in pairs. Take turns to read the first sounds of each picture above. Add the 3 sounds to make words. Now, will you all be able to do it? Yeah. Okay, let's start.
Are you excited to learn something new? Yes. Okay, let's start. The module is here. What is this? This is a duck. Great job, Aditi. Ansh, can you tell me what is first sound of duck? Yes, the first sound of duck is duck. Good job, Ansh. What is this? This is an octopus. Great job, Aditi. Ansh, can you tell me what sound of an octopus? Yes. So the first sound of an octopus is oh. Good job, Ansh. What is this? This is a goat. Ansh, can you tell me what is first sound of goat? The first sound of goat is go. Good job, Ansh. What word can you make by adding all the first sounds? The word is the of the dog. Good job, Ansh. Harshika, we are going to read some words. First I will read, then you will read. Okay. Bag. At the bag. Bog. Bug. At the butt. The dot. Gab. As gas. On the God. Got. Now let's read these words faster. Got. Bat. Bog. Bug. Butt. Dot. Gab. Gas. Got. Shark. Shut is shelf. Ship. Shop. Brush. Dish. Fish. Wash. Lived at the toy tree. Night by the light of the West Modi played crucial role in G20. India is a highly valued partner, says top official. New Delhi PM Modi was instrumental in forging
the 5 steps of the literacy process. Very interesting. So I hope if you're there with a partner, then maybe you could do this activity. We're just going to do a short activity together. If you're there with a partner, maybe you could do with them. Or alternatively, if you have, we've got these 2 cute little puppets. So sometimes what our kids do is when they go home, if they don't have a partner, they practice doing role plays with puppets. So they can be like, hi, my name is Ram. Hi, my name is Sona. And they'll just be talking with each other like this. So as it is, I'm fortunate to be here with 2 great people. So I don't need my puppets, but if you are sitting with somebody, please do this with them, right? If not, you can use your puppets. And we're just like the process we saw in the video. This key process in the literacy materials is moving from picture to sound to word, moving from known to unknown. So we're just going to do this activity as a demonstration. And please, if you're sitting with somebody, please do it with them also. So supposing Sunita and I are 2 kids in the ALfA classroom, we'll start like this. Hi, Sunita, can you see what the picture is on the left?
I see a car.
Yeah, great. And what's the first sound of car?
C.
No, I mean the first sound. Like when you say car, what sound are you hearing? Yeah, great. Okay, now your turn. Now you ask me.
What is the picture in the middle?
Picture in the middle is an apple.
What is the first sound of apple?
Apple, apple, apple. Ah.
Very good, very good, very good.
Okay, now my turn to ask. So, and the picture on the right?
It's a tub.
Tub. Okay, and the first sound of tub?
Ta.
Ta. Okay, great.
Tub, ta.
Great. Wow. So, what do all these three sounds join together to make? What word do they join to make?
Ka, a, ta, cat.
Great. And what does cat mean?
Billy.
Billy. That's the Hindi
An
word for
animal
cat.
with 4 legs. Cute, cuddly.
Well, I added this question in because in the Indian context, where English is generally not the mother tongue, we're obviously encouraging reading with comprehension. So we're encouraging kids to ask each other also, what does the word mean? It's no good if you can just learn to read unless you're actually understanding what you're reading. So that's the process in a nutshell. You can see that we're sitting there in a pair, we're talking with each other, we're asking questions of each other. That's how the process flows.
So do you need to know the alphabet? See, you can tell that you don't need to know the alphabet because you're seeing those letters that we see as letters. The children are seeing them as sound symbols.
Right.
So we say, don't need to teach TD at all. That saves a whole year.
Right.
Go straight to this.
Right.
Secondly, if you can see that two of us figured it out, that this is ka, atta, three sounds that sort of have a symbol to it. And when you add the three sounds, you get ka, atta, becomes cat. This becomes a formula. And the formula they're using to learn and by themselves to learn to decode and blend and make new words in first 5 pages, they're learning the entire alphabet backwards from words. In addition, in a total of some 10 pages, they're reading over 200 three-letter words. And this is a 3-year-old, 2.5-year-old, 3-year-old who can do that. A 5-year-old who's missed all that, that's okay. They can do the same. A 10-year-old who's missed all that can do that on their own. They'll do a little faster. The little ones will take a little longer. And we give them more time. We don't show them the entire alphabet. We don't show them all the pictures. It's according to a page, and the page might have 5 to 10 pictures. That's all. And those pictures, if they don't know, the teacher can play a game, in which they get to know. For example, a memory game. Turn all the pictures down and then pick at a time and say, what is it? And then they learn with each other. This is this, this is that. Teacher will introduce at the beginning, that's all, because that's not known to them. So you first get them to the known, that is the picture, and then the rest of learning scaffolds very quickly after that.
That's a really good point. So you're saying that supposing the picture, if English is not the mother tongue, the picture may be unknown, then the teacher can teach that using some games, using some flashcards. But once the picture is known, then the process flows itself very easily because the children are building off their existing knowledge. So it's not that old model. The old model is that the child's brain is a box, an empty box, which needs to be stuffed with information. We're moving away from that model, right? The children are using their existing knowledge to construct new learning.
On their own.
On their own, exactly. Not the teacher directing the process, but the children are constructing it on their own. So I hope if you're sitting with somebody, maybe you could do that little role play with them, right? In which you're asking each other questions. You're asking, what is this? What's its first sound? What do these sounds join together to make? You can do this. You can do this process with a partner if you're with somebody, or if you're not with somebody, you can use use anything. You can use your spoons if you're at home. Use your spoons. Use anything, and do a little role play with yourself. Because these three questions, this is really the heart of the alpha literacy process, going from the picture to the sound to the word. What is this? What's its first sound? And what do these sounds join together to make? You can use anything for the puppets.
So what is this? This is a car. What is the first sound of this? Car, ka. What is the next picture? The next picture is apple. What is the first sound of apple? Apple, air. What is the third picture? The third picture is tub. What is the first sound of tub? Tub, tub. What do you get when you add the three sounds? You get ka, a, t, cat. Bravo, well done. Now, this is one thing that also I want to point out, that how many times we get to reinforce our children positively in a class. Here, every child working with another is constantly saying, thank you, that was well done. Wow, that was amazing. Yeah, that's great. And they're saying that to each other. A shy child will not talk in a group. A shy child will not talk in a class. But the shy child will open up to one-on-one setting. And this is why it's so powerful. And they're co-creating learning from scratch, literally from scratch, on their own.
Wow, terrific. I want to turn back to Samvida ma'am to ask your experience. You've been working with this methodology for a while now in your classrooms. How do you see this literacy process? We saw in the video, we talked, the teacher was demonstrating first, then the children were working in pairs. We saw a little bit of the steps of the process, starting off with those single syllable words, moving on to building longer words. And then in the end, we saw some impressive footage of kids, I think from your campus, perhaps actually, reading storybooks and newspapers. So do you want to explain anything of your experience of the process?
But first, I'd like to point out here what ma'am just said, language of encouragement is being used here, not praise or reprimand. So every child is out of their own shell. They have no inhibitions, they are sharing with each other their knowledge. And as far as this going in my campus, yes, it is going from known to unknown. As we know, we are not using alphabet here, because initially when a child starts, he doesn't know the alphabet. So there it's completely unknown for the child. Here it's known, they know the pictures, they see they've already done this. Teacher relates to the picture, and then she comes to the sound, then they come to the letter, joining the sounds together, words, and then from there on they carry on to sentences, and then this is how it starts, and we see them coming to paragraphs and books and newspapers. This is how it is. So from school books, these e-learning materials, to unknown, which is a newspaper.
Right. So very impressive progression without the alphabet, moving very quickly within a matter of months from these simple 3-letter words, which they're decoding and blending themselves, moving all the way up to reading newspapers, as we saw there. Very impressive and very swift. And you're saying without the teacher there to direct every step of the process, but the kids are picking it up themselves.
Absolutely. You see the curiosity factor also there. They've never read the newspaper. It's always these materials, learning things which they have. So they are themselves very inquisitive. Their knowledge, which they have, the skills which they have learned in the Alpha class, they use it, to their real life examples.
Incredible. Yeah, fantastic. Wow. So I'm very interested to hear your thoughts in the chat box. As you saw that in that video, whatever comments, whatever thoughts you have, we're going to be looking in a subsequent video very soon. We're going to be looking at how this process plays out, right? We're going to be looking through the structure of the literacy books. Before then, though, we want to dwell a little bit on this process of paired learning. So in our next video, we're going to be looking at the process of paired learning, how that really works. Ma'am alluded to earlier this process of random pairing, in which we're using ice cream sticks with writing the students' names. So we're going to be seeing some footage of teachers discussing this process, implementing it in the classroom, because that's really the heart of Alpha, is this process of paired learning. So we need to see how this works in practice. Would you like to say something else on that, ma'am?
Yes, I'd like to say that, it can be many different ways to pair the children, but we must not consciously pair children according to ability, or have that notion in our minds even that let's pair, Tom, who happens to be quite a genius, with me. Maybe I'm not such a genius. Or let's say we both are really good. Pair them together because they learn faster. Well, it's not about learning fast. It's also about empathy. It's about growing together in so many rich ways. And I think those are more important gains of learning. So we are, in Alpha, very fortunate that in this paired setting, that we can build that empathy, that kindness. If I happen to be a special needs child in my classroom, everybody has the opportunity to work with me, and I so love it that they all come to work with me, and they that they don't see me as less than an equal. And I think this is the kind of sentiment we want to build in our children. So the pairing is not just once and for the rest of the year; it's actually every day, and sometimes on the same day. If you change a concept, or if you feel, oh, maybe we need to change the pairs immediately, we say, okay, everybody reshuffle, everybody form a new pair. There are many ways to make the pairs. For example, Tom said ice cream sticks, and you put their names on it. And so you bring a child to the front, and the child picks out 2, and those become the pairs. And he picks out another 2, or she picks out another 2. And that way, the children become pairs. The other could be chits of paper on which you write the names. And the kid comes and picks out 2 numbers. Or you have half of the numbers pairs of 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s on chits of paper, and you randomly have a child pick a number, and they go and find each other. And this is good because kinesthetic, there's movement involved, there's the curiosity, who am I going to sit with next? There's a lot of anticipation on part of the children. They're actually loving it, that they can actually change their pairs every single day, and they look forward to the next pair. And this is different, because in the beginning they wanted to sit with their own friends. But I think Samita can also comment on that. because now they are sitting with different pairs, and they look forward to the next day, and that anticipation of who they're going to sit with. Is that true?
Yes,
Samvita?
exactly, ma'am. What you said initially, what the teachers were doing, I'll call it a traditional classroom. The teacher used to pair the children as per the abilities, not just the other way around. Random pairing. So here we are inculcating the social skills also. Every day they get to sit with a new friend. The whole class. They have so many 50 children in a class, 45. They have 45 friends. Know each other in and out.
Video 5, yeah. Video 5.
Paired learning is the cornerstone of the ALfA program. Children working together in pairs enable rapid rates of learning. In this video, we're going to discuss that why paired learning is effective, why random pairing, and how to make pairs. Let's begin with why paired learning is effective.
Many studies have shown that paired learning is more swift and it's more effective, and it helps in improving children's performance, their academic performance, their social development, as well as their motivation and the engagement in the activity.
A traditional classroom has a teacher people ratio of 40:1, which really makes it difficult for the teacher to pay attention on each and every child. But when we talk about random pairing, this ratio becomes 1:1. The child is engaged and doing the activities.
The Times of India Joe Smith tracks are up to half-kilometer long, 2 feet wide. A ground survey of the cracks revealing the vulnerability of the area, reports Shivani Azad. Speaking at the UP Global Investors Summit in Gradual on Friday, Tata Sons chairman
Okay, so now we know that peer learning is effective, but now the question is how to make pairs.
Okay, so there are different ways of making pairs. We can even use paper chits, right? Or ice cream sticks on which you can write down the roll numbers of the children, and you can call out one child who will pick the ice cream sticks, and he or she is going to call out the roll numbers written on it, and then those two children will come together and sitting in a pair. Let's start the class with the random pairing. Namya, please come out and call out your friends' roll numbers.
roll number 44 and roll number 5.
Yes, roll number 44 and 5, please come. Gati, please come out and call out the next two roll numbers.
The next two roll numbers are 14 and 46.
Okay, roll number 46 and 14, please come out from your places and sit together. Very good. Avyukta, please come out and call out the next two roll numbers.
The next two roll numbers are 25 and 36.
Okay, roll number 25 and 36, please come out and sit together. Now the question comes, why random pairs?
Random pairs, what I think, that children enjoy the surprise. They understand better when they have a concept explained by their peers, whose thought processes are almost similar to their own thought processes. It also avoids sorting and labeling of children. Labeling and sorting of children, it really disheartens them.
Today we are going to read sun, moon, sky and stars. When we get up in the morning, it is daytime. We always see the sun shining in the sky. Planet has its satellites too. As planets go around the sun, satellites go around their planets. Hey Henry, I don't know the meaning of satellite. Please tell me the meaning of satellite. Yes, let me search from my dictionary. Okay. An artificial object placed on our orbit around a planet. Thank you, Anvi. Hey, Anvi, let's revise chapter Sun, Moon, Sky, and Stars. What are stars? Why do they appear small? The stars are big ball of fire. They appear small because they are very far away. Correct.
So are the pairs going to be same for the entire session or do we change them?
No, we quite frequently change the pairs every day. In fact, like for every topic. The reason behind this is that they get to work frequently with each other at some point of time over the month.
How may I help you, sir? I want the juice and this puppet, but the cost of the juice is 20 rupees and the cost of this puppet is 50 rupees. Don't worry, I have the change amount. Okay, there. Oh, 100. Let me calculate, sir. The left amount is. Thank you, sir. Thank you. At what time do you wake up? I wake up at 6 o'clock. When do you go to school? I go to school at 8 o'clock. Which time did you take dinner? Take my dinner at 8:25. When you go to play? I go to play at 3 o'clock.
Wow, fantastic. What a powerful video to see the process of paired learning in action, how they are making the pairs, and then what they're doing in pairs. Now, I'm also seeing there's lots of fantastic comments coming in the chat box. That's fantastic. Let's address some of those. So one question I would like to turn to you, ma'am, to ask. So this is from Nimi Shukla. It becomes really difficult for the introvert children to open up during paired learning. Do share ideas to make it comfortable for them too. Ma'am, you're there in the classroom every day. What are your thoughts? I was an introverted child myself. I definitely felt shy. So can you give some tips on how to help introvert children open up in this process?
Tom here. See, to believe it, you have to be in the classroom and to see actually happening out there. We do have these children and where random pairing takes place. Firstly, I've seen these children gaining confidence, when they see their partners speaking confidently. They don't have any inhibitions. They're not introvert. So seeing your partner, they catch on quickly. Secondly, we don't rush things here. We give them ample time. Every child, every sets of children, they're given time to move on at their own pace. So there's no rush thing here. And if you want, there have to be a set curriculum or set material to be done in a day. It's not like that. Every teacher has a different pace with every child, with every group of children that is made, and they are allowed the flexibility. Thirdly, the teacher is there. Though she is not leading the class, the teacher is always there as a support system, watching them, guiding them. So maybe at time, she can tweak it a little if she sees it's not working. So she can put and she can also pitch in. But looking into it, nothing is forced on. It is child-led and child-centric.
Okay, great. So you're saying even shy children in this process of paired learning, they do open up, right?
Yes.
And they do open up, they do become more confident and even able to share in front of the whole class.
And their partners play a very strong role here.
Right.
Haven't we seen children when they are there in the kindergarten?
Yes.
They learn number of rhymes. How do they learn? Because they're all singing it together in the class.
Right. Very
So
true.
when you are doing something in a class as a wholesome or with your partner, you learn faster.
Very true. And in a sense, maybe that's the power of peer learning, is that children open up more with their peers than even with us as teachers. Some things they may not be able to share with us, but they'll be sharing that with their peers.
And one more thing I'd like to point out here, they know they're not being judged.
Right, right. Okay, so ALfA, we're very non-judgmental. We're not about marks. We're not about comparing children, judging children. It's every child progressing at their own pace, which is usually very rapid in this case.
Here I'll say I'm the best.
Yes.
That is the atmosphere.
Right.
That is the conviction each and every child has out there.
Right, right. Fantastic. And Sunita ma'am, I'll turn to you now for another set of questions. A whole lot of people are asking good questions on this theme about language. Now, you're absolutely right. English is a very tricky language, right? It's not phonetic. It's very, the spelling is very weird and confusing. And obviously, if English is not a mother tongue, it will be hard for children initially to pick that up. So definitely, I would say from my experience, we should focus first on mother tongue literacy. When I start teaching in the slum, I always start with Hindi, right? Only once they've learned how to read Hindi, then it's easier for them, more possible for them to learn how to read English. So Sunita, would you like to say a few words about how many languages ALfA is available in and our mission to take this worldwide?
Right. So for the moment, we have got this in many languages of the world. I can barely hold this. There are 31 languages in which it currently exists. 3 of them are being revised or in process. And we want to request all those who are coming from other languages, and even if you're coming from the language in which these toolkits exist, you can get access to which languages we have on our website, dignityeducation.org. And regardless, you'll be getting that resource or access to those resources after you take the quiz at the end of the 3.5-hour training session for literacy and another 3.5 hours for numeracy. And at that time, you'll get access to these books and you'll get to see how many languages it is in. Help us improve them. Of course, it's a process. We must have revised the Hindi one, though it's our mother tongue. We must have revised it at least 11 times. So it keeps refining as we practice with the children. We see, oh, this picture could be better. Oh, this could be a better way to put it. Because it is learning from the children as well. In addition, we really would love for you, those who are from other languages, to help us replicate this in other languages of the world and other languages of India, so that everybody can have that free resource and can get going. And besides that, I just want to add a little bit here that it is basically not about competition. It's not about getting those children to speedily learn X, Y, or Z, but it is about the process being fast enough. So in the same time that a teacher will say, okay, everybody, write this sentence with an adjective, or everybody now write the number 58. So and she writes on the board, the teacher, and says, okay, everybody write this number. And then she goes around the class and seeing who's written it right and all that. It takes a handful of minutes. In that same time, if you allow the pairs to work on their own and make their own question, not 55, they could be making n number of questions for themselves, for each other. They can do 10, 15, 20 questions. And that's why we have slowed down learning, because it's highly teacher-led. And even if it's think, pair, share, or it's group work, it is still being orchestrated by the teacher, which group is going to do what, or for how long. And that kind of orchestration slows down learning. So this is one reason the process is speedy. And because it is speedy, the learning is accelerated and much, much faster. So these are things you can do with or without these materials. But of course, if you have the materials, then you can use it for good, even more, I suppose, because children would love to have those materials on the screen if you've got a projector. And this is where the school whose classrooms you're seeing, they do not have any printed books. This is zero carbon, no extra carbon, because there are no books. And to the extent there are these books, these are very thin. We're talking about 32 pages booklet for reading. And that is from pre-primary to grade 3. That's all you need, just 32 pages. And imagine that there are 2 children, Tom and I, sharing that one resource. So you halve it again. So that's like 16 pages to get you to reading. If this is used by 2 different classes, which often when the resources are low, it's actually worth giving it a go. Then it is again halve it. So it was what, 32 pages became 16 pages, now became 8 pages. Imagine doing it, the process again and again and again. There's hardly any cost involved even when you print it, because you're using that resource again and again and again. You'll have access to the materials, you can print for yourself. Here's an example, and I think Borderless NGO is joining us from Lebanon, from Beirut. So we gave them the toolkits on the platform, free of course, for Arabic, English, and for numeracy. And what I understand is that they have converted it to, they printed some of them with lamination. So this can last for a long, long time. And I think this is the spirit in which we should go forward. Low cost, zero cost, if possible, no printed materials at all. And if a screen can do, that's great. If not, print a few, use it many, many times. So there's zero carbon impact as well. As we're moving towards COP28, end of November, early December, in Dubai this year, one of the major themes of COP28 this year for the first time will be education for climate change. And ALfA is an education for climate change.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sunita. That's absolutely true. Climate change is an issue that's very close to my heart also. And the ALfA books, like ma'am was sharing about lamination, that's actually some of my teachers in our slum. I've done this myself. I've taken one book. I'm a bit ashamed to admit this, but I've taken a book, I've cut it up, and I've laminated the individual pages. So then one book, once it's cut up and laminated, many, many children can study with that one book because they'll be on different pages at the same time. So this is a terrific discussion, and I'm especially grateful for your excellent comments, your excellent questions coming in the chat. Please keep engaging through this. Like I mentioned in the morning, this is an experimental session, right? This is the first time we're running a training via YouTube, but it's fantastic the level of interaction we're having. Now, before we go on to the next kind of part of this, in which we'll actually be looking through the English books, we'll be sharing the ebook with you and we'll be flipping through the pages of that. Before we go on to that, we want to just have a very brief intellectual break with a short song. One of my favorites, right? It's one of my favorites. I think many of you will be familiar with it. So let's just, because this has been a very interesting discussion, I know my mind has been blown a little by the footage we're seeing of the classrooms. Maybe yours is also. So let's just sit back, enjoy the music for a couple of minutes, and then we'll be here again to talk about this process of the literacy books and what the structure is, what the flow is.
So green, red roses too. I watch them bloom for me and for you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
I see skies blue, clouds white, bright blessed day, and the dark secret night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you.
Wow, that is beautiful. And indeed, what a wonderful world. It's a very painful, difficult, challenging world sometimes, especially for many of my friends who I want to pay tribute to, who are struggling in the slums. During the COVID pandemic, it's been especially difficult. Many people have lost work, they've lost family members, they've lost livelihoods. But still, despite all this, it is indeed a wonderful world. And that's what we are here today for, to make it an even more wonderful world, a world in which everyone has that key skill of reading and writing. So fantastic, great to have you all with us again. And we'll be moving on now to having a look through the literacy books. Now, I just want to emphasize once again, from fantastic points coming in the chat box. Just what ma'am was saying before the break is that we have these materials available in many languages, and we definitely emphasize mother tongue literacy is the top priority, right? We're talking today to you in English because English is, for better or for worse, a global language, right? Which many of us understand. English itself is quite illogical. I personally prefer Hindi in many respects. It's a much more sensible language, but we are blessed today to have people from around the world here with us. So that's why we're speaking in English. But these materials are available in over 30 languages. So please start out not with English, but start out with your mother tongue, right? And if these materials are not yet available in your mother tongue, right? I know it's available in many languages of the world, but if it's not yet available, please help us to replicate this same process of moving from picture to sound to word, this process of known to unknown. We want to make these materials available to every child in the world. So we need your help to replicate these materials in your mother tongue. So let's move on then with that caveat, right? We're working with English today because that's the lingua franca, the language that we're working with today. So let's move on to have a look at the structure of the English books.
The books are identical in approach in every language. There's a process of known to unknown. So I think that we need to be looking at it, not that it is English, but that it is a process that we follow in every single language. So I hope you see it with the eye of your own language, but the process and the methodology we are able to share only in one language, and today it happens to be English. On 14th and 15th, we're going to share Hindi, because the language of instruction, the training itself will be in Hindi as well. So that will be on 14th and 15th. So those from the Hindi belt, please spread the word that we'll be doing MOOT in the 2 sessions, not 3 sessions like today, but 2 sessions. We'll be repeating that on 14th and 15th. So you're all very warmly invited if you want to see how the books inside look in Hindi. They're similar, very similar. They're very clear.
Welcome to the ALfA English Literacy Program, which teaches the foundation of reading and writing in a swift and enjoyable manner. Learning English can feel daunting because it is not phonetic and has funny spelling, but the ALfA books are there to guide your children on the journey. Book 1 introduces the most common sound of each letter, and students practice reading single-syllable words and simple sentences. The first page gives useful instructions for how to use this methodology of paired learning, in which children ask each other questions to build from their existing knowledge. It also reminds you to avoid some common mistakes, such as using rote learning or teaching the whole class at once. The first lesson introduces 6 letters. In step 1, we check whether students are familiar with what each of these pictures are called in English. If English isn't their mother tongue, they may be unfamiliar with some, in which case we can use a variety of games to introduce them. For instance, use the flashcards provided or invite children to make their own and play matching games. In step 2, the students ask each other questions to go from picture to sound to word. First, they point to the picture, asking, "What is this?" Then they ask, "What is its first sound?" After repeating for the other picture letter combinations, they then ask, "What do these sounds join together to make?" and follow up by asking the meaning of the word. Students then swap roles for the next word, taking turns to ask and answer questions. Remember to focus on the sound of the letter, not its name. That is, we say ka, a, t, not c-a-t. In step 3, students use the same letters introduced above to form new words. Here, abstraction takes place as students blend the sounds in new combinations. If they forget how to decode a letter, they can refer above to step 2. The mentor notes below are a reminder of the whole process. You will need to keep reminding your students to take turns and ask each other questions. The mentor notes also provide extra video resources. Each lesson has the same structure, introducing 4 to 6 letters to cover the whole alphabet in just 5 lessons. The lessons gradually build up the number of words in step 3 to increase the level of practice. The next 3 pages give phonetic practice of the different vowel sounds: a, e, I, o, e. The alphabet is presented here well into the book. It's here just for revision. We don't teach the alphabet at the start because it's more interesting for children to learn to make words from the outset. The next few pages have practice sentences. Here, sight words with non-phonetic pronunciations begin to be introduced. For instance, the letter A normally makes an A sound, as in apple, but it can also make an sound, as in umbrella. We use color coding initially to show the different vowel sound. Similarly, the letter S can make a Z sound in words like is and was. The next 2 pages help children construct their own simple sentences with a given structure. They can generate many more sentences by simply replacing the last word of the sentence. Another page facilitates vocabulary building as children ask each other questions like, "What is that?" while pointing to different objects and pictures. Book 1 concludes by providing more reading practice with a poem for each of the different vowel sounds, followed by simple comprehension questions. Book 2 teaches longer words which aren't necessarily phonetic, and it builds vocabulary, fluency, and confidence. It starts by introducing some common consonant combinations like SH, CH, and TH. It also demonstrates the silent E rules. We go on to many passages which each practice a particular vowel sound, like A as in rain and ok as in talk, and so on. Then there are some pages to thematically build vocabulary: vegetables, fruits, household objects, places, transport, and verbs. Again, prompts at the bottom encourage children to ask each other questions like, "What is your favorite fruit?" and "Can you catch the ball?" We go on to short passages which foster values such as love of learning, equality, friendship, and cleanliness. The passages also have comprehension questions. Learners can make their own questions to ask each other. Further pages are there to help children introduce themselves and learn manners. Now we build more vocabulary with an animal theme used to introduce prepositions and adjectives in a fun compare and contrast activity. Then there are role-play passages in which children take turns to read their part of the dialogues between Raju, Sona, and their mother. We move on to a foundational understanding of grammar with sentence-making activities. Children choose one word from each of the columns to construct a noun-verb-noun sentence. Book 2 concludes by teaching the order of pen strokes for writing small and capital letters. So you can see that, using these 2 thin booklets with plenty of activities, we can teach foundational English literacy slowly and enjoyably.
Wow, fantastic. So that gave you a very brief snapshot of the materials in English. As Sunita was saying, it's a very similar structure in other languages as well. So in focusing not so much on the language per se, but on the process, on the flow. So you can see how it's building materials, but we're now going to do one of the activities which is there, right, in many of our different languages. And this is one of my favorite activities. So I hope please grab a pen and paper if you don't have it with you yet. We've got 8 letters here on screen, right? And I'm giving you the time of 2 minutes. I've got my co-panelists here with me. We're going to do it as a race. No. We're going to do, we're just going to see how many words we can make using just these 8 letters. Okay, so I can't use, for example, M is not here. I can't make the word mat because M is not there. Just using these 8 letters, arranging and rearranging them, I'm going to see how many different words I can make. So please join us in this activity. And when you're done, when the 2 minutes is up, I'll let you know. And please post in the chat box what was the longest word you made and also how many words you made in total. Okay, everybody's got the rules of the game. So you can use the same letters many times, right? So for example, if I make CAT, cat, I can still use those same letters to make more words as well. So please, we're ready to start. Okay, on your marks, you've got your pen and paper. We've got 2 minutes. Let's see how many words we can make. Ready, steady, go. So keep going. Let's see. Interested to see how many words you can make. You need to show the PPT. The letters we're just showing on screen again. Yes. So we're just seeing how many words we can make using these letters. Okay, we've got 1 minute to go. Now I've got 30 seconds left. Ten seconds to go, everybody. See how many words you can get. Okay, time's up, everybody. Exam is over. Pens down. So let's have a look. Not that we're competing, but Sunita, how many words did you get? And please, everybody, post in the chat box how many words you got. Sunita?
16.
16. Oh, I think I've got 8, 10. I've got 14 myself. And Samvita, ma'am?
I've got 11.
You've got 11. Okay. Well, it doesn't matter the quantity so much. Please do post in the chat box though what you've got. And somebody has made rail yatra. Wow, that is incredible. Hats off. Rail yatra, a nice Indian English word. That's good. Now I will have to confess that I cheated here because I chose the letters. I got an 8-letter word, literacy. That was how I chose the letters. So I did also get clarity, which is a nice word. I didn't see this. Oh, this is Celeste. Wow, very impressive. Somebody else got literacy and clarity as well. Hats off to you. So I'm interested to hear now. Please do keep posting how many words you got. And I'm seeing some really nice words are coming in there. Recital, lyric. Wow, fantastic. So yeah, imagine a class of students doing this activity. Let me hear your thoughts in the chat box as well. And I'm about to hear from my co-panelists. What do you think is the advantage of doing this sort of activity? Obviously, there are many ways we could teach writing in school. Right? The most common way is for me as the teacher to write on the board, and my students will just copy it down, repeat the exact things I've written. They will write it in their notebooks. What do you think is some of the advantages of using an activity like this instead?
The first main advantage I would say here is, Tom, we were very happy doing it while we were being taught, you know. It was something very interesting, very playful, and we were loving it. And we were creating something new here.
We are creating something new, absolutely. So there was that creativity coming, right?
Absolutely.
If you're just copying from a textbook or copying what the teacher is writing, there's no chance to exercise your creativity. And we're seeing from your words that you have been incredibly creative, many great words that you're coming up with, in the same way that kids really enjoy this sort of activity, don't they? Absolutely, yeah. Anything you'd like to add there, Sunita? Of what's the advantage of doing it through an activity like this?
There are many, many advantages. Firstly, we're doing it in the mother tongue. So when they mix those letters and make something new, if it makes sense, they write it down, because they can read the letters. So this is the next activity after they've learned already in their mother tongue how to read the letters backwards from words, as we teach the opposite way. And what is also really fascinating is that I may have made some words, you may have made some words. We look at each other's list and we learn new vocabulary. One of the challenges in teaching of language and literacy is vocabulary building. And this is a natural way to build vocabulary very fast. Then you look also at the repository of the words that a classroom full of children will create. And they have a chance to go around with different pairs and looking at what they've made. And there's a huge richness that is created, which would not be possible if a teacher dictated, okay, everybody write down this or everybody write down that. And it'll be so slow. In the same time, the teacher would get 1 or 2 or 4 or 5 words dictated. We've got children doing 16, 11, 14, many of you, many more than that. And this is the first time we've done it. We have to actually explain the rules of the game. Once they see another vocabulary list, or they make their own. And that is really the beauty of it. So everything is given from the point of view of starting a process off, and then now we will, the process in the learning materials, it's in the prompts. Prompts are instructions for the children as to what their task is. And one of the tasks always is that make your own questions. So here the children will make their own set of letters for each other. So I'll make a circle with, let's say, 7 letters, and you'll make a circle with, let's say, 5 letters or 10 letters. And children get very ambitious, by the way. And then we both are making, words from that box of selected box of letters. You're making from my box, and I'm making from yours. So you're making questions for me. You can do this in a notebook. Like in a notebook, you'll take my notebook, I'll take your notebook. In that notebook, I will write 10 words or 10 letters rather in a circle or in a box. You will take my notebook and write maybe 5 or 8. And then we'll swap it again, and I'll be making my notebook entry of those words that I think are sensible. And because my own language, I can tell is sensible or not sensible.
Fantastic, fantastic. So you're saying it's a very joyful process. It's a process in which the children at the heart of it. The teacher is not directing it so much. The children are making their own words. They're building vocabulary. They're exercising their creativity. They're having fun. And so terrific. And I'm so glad that many of you participate in the activity. I'm sure you also experienced that it was enjoyable. If I had just given you a list of words and I told you, that's a form of punishment. I was talking to my American friend the other day, and he said one of his, once he did something wrong at home, and his mom told him, here's one sentence, I will not lie, write it out 1,000 times. Now, this is a form of punishment, right? It's so boring. You're just writing the same thing over and over again. Compare that as a form of writing to this as a form of writing. How much more interesting, how much more enjoyable is this? Let's do one more.
I want to point
yes,
out
please.
Also that it is not only the process is enjoyable, the amount of writing the children are doing is so much more. And that's why in the pilots that we've done in City Montessori School and other places, we found that the written work is twice or more, sometimes 3 times. It depends on the teacher, but it is much more than in the traditional system. So of all the goals that we had for traditional education, we're surpassing those in 45 days, not 3 years, not 5 years.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. So I want to do, I think we all enjoyed that activity. I want to do one more activity together, right, before we move on to the next video. So I'll just ask for the PowerPoint to be put on screen again. And this activity, so this first activity was about constructing words, right? Of moving from letters to words. We've been given a set of letters and we're constructing words from that. Now, this next activity is about constructing sentences. So we'll be given a set of words and we're using that to construct sentences. So here you've got 3 columns of words, right? And again, you can do this with a partner. If you're with a partner, you can do it by yourself. Please do take part in the activity. You'll enjoy it. So we've got 3 columns, right? We've got the first column, which is full of nouns. It's like dog, sister, fish, teacher, monster, alien, so forth. The second column, column B, has lots of verbs: runs, plays, cooks, rides, writes, so on. And the final column is also full of nouns. So here we're going to choose one word from each of the columns and going to use that to construct a sentence, a noun, verb, noun sentence.
Okay, may I suggest also that that is an activity at the bottom are the prompts. You can see that there are obviously certain things written there. One of the things written there is make your own list of nouns, verbs, and nouns. To the extent you're on a mobile and cannot see the list up there, then you can make your own list of nouns, verbs, and nouns and sentences from that. And this is an activity the children will do immediately after they've done the words that are in front of them.
Good point. Good point. So you're saying these are very generative activities. Like the first activity we did also, we just chose 8 letters. Now I cheated. I chose the 8 letters of literacy so that I could win. But it would not be just this one activity, right? Then students would choose another set of letters and they could do the same thing again, right? So in the same way, this is also a generative activity. It's not just a fixed activity. There's so many more activities they can do with this.
Actually, it's also about thinking time. It's also time on task.
Right.
Normally, we use many pages to get to this 1/2 page module.
Right.
And this is where we are saving paper.
Right.
And the children are co-creating their learning, and learning is better, more joyful. And at the same time, it is just through prompts that they're doing a variety of activities, and children are becoming very innovative. They're actually making their own prompts. Teachers also are contributing, but mostly we're finding it fascinating that children are making their own prompts, like next set of things they can do. For example, with the previous activity where you are selecting letters, it could be I'll put my name in the circle, all the letters of my name. You'll put all the letters of your name. Now this is what the children will come up with.
Yes.
That kind of variation.
Fantastic, fantastic. Very creative process. So let's do this activity together, right? So take your piece of paper and pen and write a few sentences. Choosing, you can make crazy sentences, you can make funny sentences, and please do put them in the comments. What sentences you're making of this simple noun, verb, noun structure. If you can see that, then please start by using words from the columns. Otherwise, you can also invent your own words, use your own words. So we're going to take just a minute to do this. Forming sentences using the words here. Please do post them in the comments. Please keep it on the PowerPoint.
Good morning, Anjajaga. Today we are here to
sentences, and please do post them in the comments. Okay, last 10 seconds. And you can please post in the comments what sentences you're making. Okay, great. So I'll turn again to my co-panelists. Please do keep posting in the comments what sentences you've made. And Samvida ma'am, can I check with you first? Can you share one or two of your sentences?
Right. I've got 2 sentences. My pet dog is barking. The teacher's looking for a UFO.
Okay.
And here I would just like to add, when this started in my class initially, within a span of 10 days, me or teacher and the children, we all realized that ALfA is a gift to the world, here. And it is, as we all saying it again and again, I'm again reiterating, it's not about the product. It is the process. And it gives the prompts which are given down, they give children a chance, to learn on their own, to be independent. And here again, I'll say it's not about teaching. It's all about learning, the new learnings that is taking place.
Absolutely.
That is more important.
Absolutely. It's
here.
all about the learning. Let's turn to Sunita. Sunita, what are some of the sentences you made?
So I made sister rides car.
Okay.
Teacher plays game.
Poor grammar. Poor grammar.
She's actually got time to play game because we say to the teachers, look, if you're getting antsy because your kids are all so busy and doing their tasks, go take a walk. Go grab a cup of tea and come back. So let the kids be on their own, because the struggle is where they learn. So don't try to correct them. Don't try to be too rushed about it. Let them absorb things on their own. The process is fast. You don't need to interfere with that process, because we learn through struggle. So that is a point I want to make again and again. So I didn't write with, let's say, other parts of speech. I wrote, bird eats food. Of course, I mean, it could be a lot better sentence, but children begin somewhere.
Mhm.
And every child begins at a different point and place, and that's okay. That's okay. And the children also correcting and helping each other. So this is instant feedback. This is really critical also. That instead of teachers saying, "Oh, everybody now, answer this question," or "Here's a little test," here it is ongoing instant feedback. Say, "Well, that doesn't make sense." For example, I wrote one of them: "Fish splashes pond." So
Makes no sense.
No, it doesn't make sense at all. So we say, okay, well, help me. How can I do this better? So Tom, help me. How can I do this better?
Maybe the fish splashes in the pond.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Great, fantastic. So I'm interested to hear, I'm excited to see your creative sentences coming in as well. I'll just share one of my own: "An alien cooks dinner." That was one of the sentences I made. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts more generally, moving to the slightly more serious topic. What's the advantage of doing an activity like this? Because this is teaching the structure of the sentence, right? It's in English, we follow generally the noun, verb, noun structure. In Hindi, it's a different. So it's in English, right? Subject, verb, object. What's the advantage of using an activity like this to teach the structure of a sentence, as opposed to, for example, the traditional method would be, I'm going to write the definition of the noun on the board. A noun is a person, place, thing, or object, right? Please, everybody, copy it down and write 15 examples of nouns, right? So what's the advantage of using an activity like this to teach grammar, to teach syntax, as opposed to the traditional approach? Samvida ma'am, would you like to share any of your thoughts? What's the pro of the advantage of using an activity?
See, again, I would say the same thing. It's kind of a hands-on. Here, the children are looking at the words. They have the words with them. They have the pictures with them. At times, teacher keeps the pictures along with them. And as we said, we see the picture and they understand with it, the meaning is explained to them, and they're putting them into words. And they are there assisting each other, hand-holding each other when they're doing this. So with the help of the picture, the prompts, they're understanding exactly what they're doing. Like ma'am made that sentence and the fish splashing, and you added in that. So here they come up, they are able to correct each other grammatically. They understand the meaning of exact what is the word, what is a verb, what is a noun, rather than just giving them a definition, copy the definition down, learn it as a rote, and then just write it down. Through activities, they're actually understanding what a noun is, what a verb is.
So it's a much more practical knowledge rather than a theoretical knowledge. They're actually understanding what a noun really is by generating more examples themselves, by playing around with it, substituting one noun for another noun. Right?
Yes,
In the
and then
structure.
the prompts which are down, these prompts are followed by their own prompts. So here also they are creating, adding on to more. So again, we see those 6 C's that we talk about: creativity, critical thinking, all that is coming into it.
Wonderful.
So 6 C's are embedded in each and every activity of ALfA.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And
we're going on to that very shortly, to discussing the 6 C's, how that's involved. I'm just seeing there's lots of good comments coming in, which are building on what Samvida ma'am was just sharing. So I just want to share a couple of them. Nimi Shukla said, this kind of learning inculcates creativity and curiosity, enhances their cognitive abilities. Totally agree, Nimi. So it's obviously it's about literacy and numeracy. These are very crucial things, but beyond literacy and numeracy, we're not just about teaching reading. We also want to inculcate those 6 C skills in children. I'm also seeing another comment from Joanne. Students are learning patterns. Many of our adult students do not use mainstream grammar. It's a good way to sneak in grammar in an informal way. That's right, absolutely. So grammar, you know, it's even the name grammar, it sounds kind of scary, right? Now this is a grammar activity. It's essentially a grammar activity, but it doesn't look scary. It looks fun. So Sunita, would you like to add anything else on this?
Yes, I'd like to. I think we are taking in the logical mind of the child, the cognitive mind of the child. And we're putting things in the context of analyses, analytical context. So basically, my mind is working, which combinations are best, where do I go with this, does it make sense, does it not make sense, and it's happening at top speed. It's not like teachers saying, oh, everybody write 5 sentences, oh, that's good too. And in fact, a lot of what we're doing, a lot of teachers are doing it. Please, let's not deny that. But there is a difference because children are doing it on their own. They're co-creating learning. This is not happening. Majority of the times we might say, okay, think, pair, share, let's do it together. But that's not the modality of transaction. The books are not designed for that. An innovative teacher will do it for sure. But where is the material that supports that for the children, that they can look at it themselves and say, I know what I need to do. And
Absolutely.
The task of the teachers to explain only what the children are expected to do in pairs. The task of the teachers not to teach, oh, this is what this concept is all about. At best, they can do a demo, what you're expected to do, and then leave them on their own for a long period of time. And they will create lots of learning. I also want to say this is gestalt at work. So when you have things in order in any kind of analytical framework, we tend to remember more. So if you imagine that your drawing room in your home has a lot of different things, lamp, lantern, whatever, like tables, sofa, this and that and the other. Imagine that's in order, of course, in your drawing room. Imagine that was all scattered outside or even in that room. And then you want to remember those items. The chances are you will not be able to remember what was there because it's just a pile of things. But when it's in order, we remember, oh, I think there was a sofa on the left. I think I remember there was a lamp on the right. We remember through visuals and we remember more when it's analytical. And we remember even more when we're interacting because we're actively thinking, we're actively doing things. We remember a lot more. This is also for retention and not forgetting.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you're saying the key part is the process. It's these sorts of activities, these fun hands-on activities. But the books are there mainly as to give prompts, to give you prompts. So if I just go back to show you that slide again, show you that slide once more, you'll see also, you would have seen in the previous video when we were flicking through the books, we're looking at the various each module has some prompts, right? It has some prompts at the bottom, which are suggestions of the activity. These are suggestions which the teacher can read out to the kids. They can go with. We'll move on to this video shortly. Not just yet, please. Yeah. So we're looking at the prompts, and these are a key part of the process. Are pre-packaged, right? They're, as Sunita was saying, they're arranged well, right? So it's like a repository of activities, which is very convenient for you to use. So it's very simple, user-friendly, designed with the child in mind. I also want to mention, as Sunita was sharing earlier, here are at the bottom which say pair up, take turns to make sentences using one word from each of these columns. So the prompts are there to guide you through the whole process. That's the beauty of these materials.
They're direct instructions for the child.
Direct instructions for the child, right?
Okay, we have a sheet here that please shows different languages in which it's available. Some of you have asked that question. You can see that these are the languages in which the material currently exists. And where there's a star, these are still in process, or they're being revised, or there's part of it done and some of it needs to be done. We look forward to your help with replicating this and revising this also. Thank you so much. It's being used in different languages, as I mentioned, in Beirut, in Lebanon. They're using Arabic right now as we speak. And in Peru, they're doing Spanish. And in Africa, they're beginning to use Swahili and so forth.
So we do need your help. It's already available in many of the major world languages, and many of India's state languages, but we do need your help. So please do reach out. If your language is not on this list, we definitely need your help to get it into your list. into your language. Even if your language is here, maybe you could help us, because obviously I only know 3 languages. I don't know these 30 languages. So there's no way that we can review those books to help improve them. So if you take them, if you start using them in your classroom, I'm sure you'll find ways to improve them further. So please do partner with us in that process.
And it's better that you do it than somebody who doesn't know the process of ALfA does it.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
since you're here, you understand it, you'll do a better job. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So now it's time to move on to this video. As we were sharing with this activity, the 6 C's are really embedded in the process. It's not just about learning literacy and numeracy. It's also about inculcating that creativity, that critical thinking in our students. So let's watch this video, which showcases exactly how ALfA does that in the classroom.
Good morning, Anjatiga. Today we are here to understand how ALfA class will help children to be a better future-ready citizens. So I have Ankita ma'am, Farah ma'am, and Jaya ma'am here. So Farah ma'am, would you like to share your views?
Actually, in ALfA classes, we emphasize more on building of 6 C's. Now, what are these 6 C's? 6 C's are those skills which helps in the overall holistic development of the child, and hence it prepares the children themselves for future ready citizens.
Ma'am, please can you explain what are these 6 C's?
Yes, surely. 6 C's, as the name suggests itself, it's 6 different skills of learning, like critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, citizenship, and character building.
He went and jumped on a box. This box is too hard, said, oh, Tommy. Oh, this box is too hard, said Tommy. Then Tommy saw another box. This box is too soft, said Tommy.
A good job, Farah ma'am. So what did you learn from here?
Thank you, Ankita ma'am, for helping me, and thank you for keeping up patience with me. The same word I was not able to read again and again, but you did not lose the patience. So thank you so much.
Good job.
So we have learned a virtue from this, a value from this.
What is that?
That is helpfulness.
Correct. And be patient.
Okay, since Ankita ma'am, you helped me, so I have something for you. I have prepared a badge for you.
Oh, wow.
And on it, I have written, Helpful Ankita.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So children, did you understand that we have learned a virtue from today's class? That is helpfulness. Now, when you will work with your partners, you are also going to take care of them and help them. Understood?
Let's do some reading. Okay. I think we need different names of transport means. No problem. Another means of should I help you again? Yes. It's transport. Thank you. Are also used to carry goods. Some transport in the kids are. You did a great job. Thank you, Tammy. You are a very helpful boy. I have something for you. This is for you. I have made this for you.
Can you join all the sounds and guess the word?
I can try.
Absolutely.
J. E. T. Jet.
Jet. Absolutely right. Great. I was collaborating with you. We both were working together, right?
What is collaboration?
Collaboration when we work together for certain thing, for some task, right?
Like we did just now?
Yes.
I was faltering in reading and you helped me.
In case if I'm not able to read any word, then you are going to guide me. You're going to help me. That is called collaboration.
Okay. So collaboration means working together and helping each other, so that if anyone is facing any problem, we can solve the problem of that person. That is collaboration.
So children, now you all are going to do in a similar way, right? If your partner is not able to understand anything, so we'll take that as an ownership and we'll guide that partner. So can we do that? Okay, let's get started.
What is the first picture? This is a what? What is the first sound of the picture? Yeah. No. See again the picture? Yeah. No, it will be verb. It is yam or it is van? Van. So it will be verb. Okay.
Today we are going to do an activity where you are going to read a chapter and ask the questions to your partner. In this way, you will be able to enhance your critical thinking.
Today we will read EVS Animals chapter Animals Around Us. Okay. We see different types of animals around us. They are both big and small. They live on land, in water, or on trees. Now your turn. Animals like cat and horse live on land. Animals like dolphin and shark live in water. And animals like monkey and bats live on trees. Now from this page we will ask some questions. Okay, we see different types of animals around us or one type of animal? We always see different types of animals around us. Okay, now it's your turn. Okay. Should we take good care of our pets? Yes, we should take good care of our pets.
This will enhance your creativity and you will be able to understand how to use your waste materials.
Let's make the pattern board. Okay. It's right. Well done.
What is the connection between 6Cs and alpha classes?
Actually, ma'am, I feel if a child is taught through alpha process, he possesses all the skills which are needed for securing jobs in future and make him better citizens.
And also, Ankita ma'am, in alpha classes, like they learn to work in pairs. They do random pairing. They take turns to ask questions. So they are responsible for their learning as well as the learning of their partner, right? So it helps them to converse better. They collaborate with each other, and they become more confident and responsible in that class. This is what I felt.
Children are being creative when they are making their own activities, when they're getting the resources from home. And I'd like to mention out here, these resources are from recycled stuff. Parents don't have to go to the market, shell out money, buy. They look for themselves, whatever they can find. Again, here we come into the green education, which the ALfA is all about. So these resources are being recycled, and then they're using it creatively in class activities. For example, if they have a clock, or they have to make a tower, or they may have to make a house, or they have to make a hat with the words or letter, they're using these resources to make them. So somewhere we see the creativity is coming out of the children, whether it is art and craft, whether it is literary, or whether it is in numbers, if we see. So the creative part is embedded into it. And when the children make their own resources, they feel the ownership out here. This is something not bought from the market or given by the teacher. They have created it themselves.
So kids are making their own resources. They're really
Absolutely.
enjoying that process. And I really love the word you use there of it's embedded in the process.
Yes.
So it's not like there's a separate module about creativity or a separate module about critical thinking. It's embedded in each and every
Six
module.
C's are embedded in each and every activity of ALfA. For example, if you see taking turns, it was. They being in pairs. These are all 6 C's.
Right,
This is
right.
how they're learning little steps. So you don't need another period or in a class or something in the timetable.
Exactly.
It is a part of their curriculum which is there with them.
Exactly. And I see, if I share my experience in from my slum, there's actually, in our slum, we've got Hindu and Muslim kids living side by side, right? And India, unfortunately, has sometimes had periods of religious disharmony. Of course, 99% of the time, people are getting along well with different faiths. Here today, we've got, I think, 3 different faiths here in our panel as well. So, but it's that process when kids are working in pairs. A Hindu and a Muslim child are working together. A Christian and a Sikh child are working together. It's that process which is building citizenship, and it's laying a solid foundation for the future of our nation and of the world. Sunita, anything else you would love to add about the 6 C's? How is that embedded in the ALfA process?
Well, let's not very quickly deal with the 6 C's. This has been a vision for education forever. And I think we need to think more deeply why the 6 C's, why we in the first place inculcating the 6 C's. And I think I saw a question earlier on, what are the 6 C's? So these are 6 C skills of the 21st century. They do not belong to ALfA. They are worldwide. And a lot of schools are attempting worldwide to inculcate the 6 C's. This is the 21st century child who needs to have these 21st century skills. What are they? I mean, these are going to help them in their careers. It is going to help them become leaders, not just followers, job providers, not just job seekers. There's so many things that are embedded in the 6 C process or 6 C's that the children need to learn no matter where they are in the world, whether in the slums or in the cities, whether impoverished or whether in rich private schools. We don't have those skills. Let's face it. The most important skill for the children to learn is world citizenship. And I think you'll all agree. And Tom just mentioned about children, living side by side in a slum, in a very concentrated area. They probably have to do a lot of sharing, caring, and looking out for each other. And I think we need those kinds of communities. Why do we have apartheid? Because children don't live together, because they live in different communities. Okay, apartheid in South Africa, because of certain reasons. In America, children living in ghettos or in the inner cities of the cities of America. And they're not going to the same school. When children go to the same school, when there's multiculturalism in the schools, they're learning firsthand. Secondly, by the process. How do you teach world citizenship? As Samita ji mentioned, very important point, that children are learning what we might call a new normalization also. They're not raising their hands to ask questions from the teacher. They're turning to each other. They're kind of helping each other. That's, of course, you can say is a characteristic quality of world citizenship. They're also taking turns. Not many people know how to take turns. Even adults don't know how to take turns. They were me first, me first. When you raise hands, everybody's saying me first, right? Ma'am, I can say, ma'am, I can say. We want to get away from that. Not me first. We together. Right? I'm taking charge of your learning. You're taking charge of my learning. We're learning together. And I think this is something of citizenship right then and there. Right? And there are so many aspects of citizenship that come together when we're having to struggle. For example, being able to negotiate. I don't like what you said. Right? I'm negotiating with you. I didn't like the way you did something and you stole my pencil. Right? A lot of things happen in daily struggle. Negotiation, part of negotiation. Okay, you think that's the answer. I think that's the answer. Let's leave it at that for today. Right? Tomorrow we'll think again. Okay. So those kinds of things are very profound, and citizenship is very important. So I'm taking citizenship because that is something we're really aiming for, We're looking at climate change. We want children to be very conscious of climate. And this is another point that doesn't link directly to 6C in the sense of paper saving or using recycled materials, using leaves, stones, pebbles, things from home, like bring spoons from home or whatever. And kids get so creative. And creativity is a 6C, one of the 6 Cs. So what are they? 6 Cs are collaboration. Are we collaborating when we're working together? Yes or no?
I think we are.
Okay. Right. So collaboration is number 1. 2, communication. How much communication do we do in a real classroom? How much communication? I'm just listening to the teacher. Or maybe at times when I'm working with my pair, or at times when I'm working with my group, I might have some chance to say. In a 1:1 setting, I have a lot more chance to say. I'm discussing a lot. So there's a poem in book B of ALfA English, and that is what if O ran away, right? So the book tells you a poem called When O Ran Away, and one of the prompts in the book is to write. We will both write when A ran away. So that's a collective exercise. We're negotiating which sentence, where, how. Can we say it better? What are the A words? Let's look up the dictionary. There's so much negotiation, conversation, communication that's happening. So that's the second of the 6 Cs. Third is creativity. We saw the process is very creative, and through the prompts, children become super creative. They make their own modules also. We give them some modules, very thin booklets, very thin, material, half a page, visual mostly, and some activities that they do around the visual. And they make the rest. They make their own modules. They make their new things. They say, well, what about this? What about that? It's just the creativity quotient of the class is super high. Then comes critical thinking. So in critical thinking, we're putting analytical frameworks, we're putting gestalt at work, we're kicking in the analytical mind, the cognitive mind of the child, and that's critical. But we are also getting the children to make questions for each other. So if I say to the class, okay, everybody answer these 5 questions, the kids are just merely doing what you've told them to do. Here I have to actively think, I'm going to quiz this Tom today. He won't be able to answer this question, I bet you. So I write in his notebook 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 questions. He writes in my notebook 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 questions. Or we write on chits of paper. So I make a whole bunch of questions on chits of paper. I fold them and put them in my pile. He makes a bunch of questions, puts them in his pile regarding a particular passage, regarding a mathematical sum, word problem, anything at all. And I'm talking about very young children. I'm talking about kindergarten, grades 1, grade 2. What Samita ma'am has been doing is with grade 1 and 2 children whose classes you're seeing today. So basically, these kids are making questions for each other. Of course, they have to know the writing skill before they can make, but before they can make with written text, many times they can do verbal questioning, right? So I've just read something, I've taken ice cream sticks and made some numbers, and we're articulating what it is. And this is critical thinking because we're making questions for each other. So let's say he has a pile of 10 questions. I've made a pile for him of 15 questions. Now he takes from my pile a question and answers verbally, and I take from his an answer. Then we take it home and we write it in our notebook. So imagine the kind of creativity and imagine the amount of writing and imagine the amount of critical thinking. Wait. Absolutely. So that's now 4. Collaboration, communication, creativity, critical thinking. And then we discuss citizenship, of course.
Right.
There's one more missing. What is that, Tom?
That's character, right?
Bingo, character. It's the first thing we should be worrying about, because character becomes part of everything we do. So if we say we have manners, for example, say, now it's your turn. Normally, we say, Meri turn, my turn. So no, your turn. Now it's your turn. Say, okay, you've done it, now it's my turn. Of course, assertiveness is also important. If he forgets to give me my turn, I say, no, wait, that's my turn now. Oh, yes, sorry, of course, it is your turn. So that saying sorry, saying thank you, and well done, Tom. That was really well done. I really like what you just wrote. Wow, that was superb. Imagine that. This is building character. It's building character when things go wrong. I don't like the way you said this to me. This is not right. This is building character. Character is being about honest, honorable, having integrity, and it's right in front of you. What you're doing is in front of you. Absolutely. Integrity is right in front of you. We really want to create a system in which honesty is built in rather than taught from outside.
Definitely.
And instead, we are having the exam systems of the past in which the exam systems are making children cheat. because marks matter.
Right.
So it doesn't matter how you got to the marks.
Right.
My father's going to say, great, well done, you got a 9 on 10 or 10 on 10, right? So I don't mind just looking over yours and writing
Cutting
my
the corner.
answer.
Yes.
Cutting the corner.
Yes.
We are teaching the wrong things.
Yes.
We need to go back to the basics, fundamentals, do them totally over again.
Totally
and
agree.
this is so pertinent. And this is
Absolutely.
happening in an alpha classroom. So yes, everybody's working on 6 C's. That is correct. And really they should be if they're not. But in alpha, it is built as part of the system through prompts and through the paired learning process in which children learn by themselves and teachers not teaching the concepts.
Absolutely, totally agree. Because these things, I remember in my own schooling, I had a moral education class, right? And often the format was the teacher would read a story and there would be a moral of the story, like, you know, you should not lie, you should not cheat, you should not hurt others. But it was sure, the story is fun, but it's quite abstract. It's like, okay, this is the moral. You need to remember the moral and write it 10 times, that sort of thing. But it's not actual practically learning those skills, those values, right? So
And it's
that's the
every
key
day,
thing.
Tom. Every day.
Absolutely.
You know, we're doing this every day. So every day I'm learning character,
Yeah.
manners, attitudes towards life, towards learning. All of these are built in. And my lazy attitudes, you know, I know we'll have to work with
Yes,
you.
yes.
I can't be so lazy. I
Yes,
just can't rely
yes.
upon your learning.
Yes,
Because you're
yes.
such a genius and
Yes,
such a smart
yes.
person.
So I'm seeing also there's lots of good comments coming in, which I want to share a couple of. So Ranu Roshan Das said, sincere respect to the team who've given their valuable time. Wow, thank you so much. And thank you for giving your valuable time in being present with us. The future children with the help of 6 C's and stress-free education. Absolutely. Recently, I was looking at the news again and seeing more news of student suicides. It's really tragic. In India, in many countries, in Japan, it's a huge problem. This issue of how much stress we put on our kids to achieve, to score marks, that's really not what education should be about. Another comment as, awesome discussion about foundational learning. Fascinating conversation. Thank you. Creative thinking is behind every great innovation. Absolutely, right? I don't think Edison was by copying from a textbook, nor did Einstein, right? So it's this creativity is coming through discussion. So I think we've got about half an hour left with you, which we are so privileged to be with you this morning, and it's been absolutely terrific discussion. I feel like we need another brief intellectual break because we've had so many good things to talk about. So I want you all to get up wherever you are, and we're going to do a couple of exercises together through another short video, right? So please get up. We've been exercising our minds a lot already today, but please get up wherever you are and do some stretches, do some exercises with us through means of this video. And we'll be back with you in just a minute.
Let's discover, let's explore your creation and so much more. It's exciting, can't wait to see what you have in store.
Fantastic. I hope we all enjoyed that. I think it was much needed for me. I've been sitting for a while, and definitely we're talking about a process of active learning, and active learning also means physically active, not just mentally active. So we're drawing towards the close, but it's terrific that you are here. And very soon we'll be moving towards a quiz, right? And we've watched many inspiring videos today. We've had lots of good discussions, the three of us, and also with many of you in the chat. So we'll be recapping some of that shortly, and we'll be doing a quiz, and then we'll be sharing a certificate with you, and also the e-learning materials. But before we go to the quiz, I just want to dwell briefly on what is the role of the teacher in the ALfA classroom. We've been talking a lot about what the role of the students are, how they're doing paired learning, how they're working with each other. But let's talk briefly now about the role of the teacher. So we'll go to my slide, please. So what we talk about in teaching is being a galvanizer, right? Now, this is a fancy word, right? It's a word that Sunita coined, of course. But what do we really mean by this? So in a traditional classroom, obviously the teacher is there. From the front, they are lecturing. They're instructing, they're telling the students exactly what to do, they're directing the whole process. Instead, as an ALfA teacher, as you become an ALfA teacher, what are your roles? So it's firstly to pair up the children randomly. We saw that in a video just recently. And to demo. So the teacher still has a key role to play in demonstrating what to do. Like Sunita and I did a role play earlier with that word cat. In the same way, you in your classroom, you'll be doing a demo. You'll be calling a pair of students forward to do a demo as well. And you'll be encouraging your children to take turns. You'll be normalizing the class. You'll be explaining to them and modeling for them what the new norms are of taking turns with each other. Of course, you'll be preparing the environment. You'll be motivating every child. And you'll be preparing learning materials in advance. So our next session, starting in about 2 hours from now, is going to be about numeracy. So of course, in numeracy, it's absolutely crucial to have those hands-on learning materials. In literacy also, we saw today, we were using paper and pen, and we're doing some fun activities. So preparing the learning materials in advance is also crucial. I want to talk briefly about this because it's a very crucial point. Sunita mentioned this earlier, that Alfie Kohn is one of her favorite authors, is one of mine as well. Now, in India, very, very commonly we see, and I remember from my own schooling days, I was born and brought up in India. I remember the teacher used to sometimes praise me in front of the other students. He would say, Tom, aapki Urdu bahut achhi hai. Your Urdu is so nice. And he'd tell the other kids, why isn't your Urdu good like Tom's? And this was deeply embarrassing to me, right? And counterproductive. It set me up for bullying as well. But the question is, as teachers, why should we not be praising our students? And what is this difference between praising and encouraging? We want to dwell briefly on this. So praise, as defined by Alfie Kohn, it can actually undermine intrinsic motivation. So praise is something like when I tell Sunita, you're such a good girl, right? You're the best in the class, this sort of thing. Constructive.
Okay, I think before you say that or say anything at all, first and foremost, teach them the right way to do something.
Right.
Very often we reprimand children for things we have not taught.
Right.
Like they're supposed to somehow learn it and know it.
Right.
They don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like my daughter in grade 9 was asked to write an essay. She wrote that essay, and then the teacher said, oh, this is wrong about it, that's wrong about it, that's wrong about it. Why not tell in the beginning what you expect?
So you're saying clear expectations should be there.
Clear expectations should be there, and they should know what is the standard. They should know, okay, a proper way of writing the letter C is like this. This is the formation of letter C. So they do it in the air, they do it on sand trays, they do it on newspapers with big crayons or whatever. And then finally, after a certain process, they come to the paper. So first teach them the right way.
Okay,
so you don't need to reprimand in the first place. And they know the standard. You're not saying, do that.
Right.
Okay?
But supposing you are my teacher and you've tried to explain to me how to have good handwriting, but still, despite your best efforts, my handwriting is pretty bad. How would you communicate with me? How would you give me that feedback?
Okay, so I will make the pair responsible. I will not be the one who will criticize. I might say, look at your own work rather than look at the other child's work. Look at your own work. Which page did you do better? Here's an example. A child I knew 4 years of age, he said, can you teach me how to draw stars?
Okay.
So I showed him how to draw a star, two triangles interlocking, and there's a star. Off he went. And many minutes later, he came back with his register full of stars. And then he put next to them a tick and a cross. Some of them were ticks, some were cross.
Okay.
So I said, Robert, what is going on here? And Robert said, can't you see, Mama? These ones I did right, and these ones I did not do so well. So they have the cross.
So he's marking his own work.
This
He's
kind of
self-reflecting.
self-analysis is what the children need to know. But they need to know the standard. The standard is in front of them. So teacher can put up the standard. Say, look, here's the standard. Judge your own work. How can you make it better? Can you help each other?
That's a really good idea. So rather than the teacher taking the copy and marking it with a lot of red pen, ask the students to check each other's work and check their own work.
Yeah, in fact,
to analyze.
The highest form of checking is your own checking.
Right.
See, we play all these games on computer. We make million mistakes.
Mhm.
Do we not go back to them?
Of course, yeah.
So the culture of celebrating mistakes. The mistakes are the stepping stones to success.
Mhm.
But we must know what we are aiming for.
Mhm.
Teacher keeps reprimanding,
Mhm.
reprimanding,
Mhm.
reprimanding,
Mhm.
and the kid hasn't a clue what she wants next. Like my daughter, again, going back to her, she wrote all these things that she got wrong. So my daughter went again. Her name is Komal Gandhi. She went back again and made another essay.
Mhm.
And then again, she said, no, this is wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. How much of the teacher time went in this? How much of the child's time went in this? How much of the wrong psychology happened here?
Mhm.
Why not give the standard? And every
Absolutely.
time you have to correct a class, don't say you didn't do it right. Show
Absolutely.
them the standard.
Absolutely. I want to go back to my PowerPoint briefly, and I appreciate the comments that are coming in. Yeah, so absolutely. This is the way to make children independent. Children are checking each other's work, they're checking their own work, right? So in my example, instead of your handwriting is awful, you could say, this is much better than last time, keep up your efforts, right? So we're not so much looking at the absolute level. We're not looking at, okay, he's scoring 40%, she's scoring 80%. We're not comparing children against each other. Rather, we're looking at a child's progress over time, right? We're looking at their progress and we're encouraging them for their progress. If we consider another example, I'll do this one with Samvina ma'am, right? So we sometimes think, okay, praising our kids is good, right? It's going to motivate them. So supposing I'm in your class and I say, okay, congratulations, you came first in your class. Now, what sort of effect do you think that would have on you as a child? I'm just saying, congratulations, you came first, you're the best. What sort of effect does that have on you? What effect does it have on your relationships with your peers as well?
See, I'll say out here in our alpha classroom, the teacher need not say anything like this, The atmosphere is such that every child feels that I am the best here. And like we were talking about this self-checking, I think that is the best way of metacognition and the best way of learning a child. It can happen to a child. And this is very well happening in the alpha classes, which I'm seeing happening with my children.
Absolutely. So how would you, instead of telling a child, congratulations, you're the best, what else might you say to encourage them instead of to praise them? Any brief phrase, like, see, because it's very tempting, and I'm guilty of this myself in my literacy classes. I'm always saying, well done, good job.
Yeah.
But what's some other ways that we can be that it's more constructive than just praise?
Here the teacher doesn't say. The pairs, they
right. Okay, so
give
they're giving
these kind of complimentary remarks to each other, these motivational remarks, they do it. And coming from your peer is more impactful rather than coming from a teacher.
Right. Okay.
Teacher refrains from doing all these things.
Great. So the teacher is not the locus of control.
No,
the teacher is not praising.
Yes.
Rather, the kids are reinforcing each
you
other.
must have seen in the videos also,
Yes,
each
yes.
one, where they're taking
Yes,
turns.
yes.
Bingo, well done, excellent, you're doing so well.
Yes, yes.
And also where in
Yes.
case this
Yes.
I'll tell you the right way
Yes,
of doing
yes,
this. You could
yes.
see that also.
Yeah.
They're not
They're
telling
helping
them,
each
no,
other.
you are wrong here.
Yes.
See,
They're helping
so,
each other.
yeah, the affirmations are very, very positive.
Absolutely. So if I should go back to the PowerPoint briefly, if we're looking at this, so instead of focusing on the marks, right? Okay, you scored 88%, you scored 87%. We're not interested in that. We're interested in the child's effort, how much effort they're putting in. And with ALfA, the best thing is every child, regardless of the level, generally is putting in their full effort, and that's the key thing, right?
Right. So, Tom, I'd like to further state that, look, I mean, this is a huge culture change. It starts with a belief, because when we change our beliefs, we change everything. But we have been living a culture in which we praise children who do quote unquote well. And the definition of well is marks out of 10, out of 100. Is always therefore implied, even though not direct, comparison with the other. So if three of us, got different marks out of a test, and in fact, if we adults sitting around in our homes right now, or places where you're joining us from, and all of you take a quiz, and you happen to be in a classroom together, you walk out of that classroom, how many children will not compare their marks, even if you don't want to? Why?
Everybody
Because
will.
the base is 10 or the base is 100, and this invariably leads to that. What if there is no base? It's a fudge factor. It's like anything. You're writing 15 sums, I'm writing 16 words, she's writing 11. We're not comparing. We're just making our best effort and best foot forward, and that should be the measure of success. And how do you mainstream the idea of effort? Because ultimately, it's the effort that leads to progress.
Absolutely.
So pragati, we need to go for progress. When we go for progress, children know it doesn't matter what mark I got last time. What matters is, have I done better? Some parents say, oh, get just 1 mark more next time. Well, why bother with that even? Just let the child come up with their own marks.
Sure.
Let the child come up with their own idea of what they can do next.
Sure.
And why ask them, hey, what are you planning to do next? How will you do a better result next time? None of that. That is pressure upon the psychology of a child. We're not worrying about marks. We're worrying about the process. We're worrying about effort. When effort is there, the child is maximizing his marks or her marks, regardless. The outcome is really excellent.
Absolutely.
Right.
I'm reminded of my favorite movie also is Three Idiots. I know somebody posted this earlier in the comments, and I'm reminded of a line towards the end of that movie where Rancho says something like, if you follow excellence, if you pursue excellence, success will come running after you anyway, right? So that's exactly the same thing with ALfA, right? We're trying for excellence, we're striving for a good process, we're striving for kids helping each other, and the marks, they will sort out themselves, right? We don't need to focus on the marks, we need to focus on the process, on the actual learning outcomes. The exams, they will take care of themselves.
So you're sitting in a company, when do you go back and check how many marks you got? Many of the parents want the children to get 100% marks. They themselves didn't get more than 40%.
Sure.
Right? So it's really crazy. The whole world is, going in the wrong direction. It's a race to nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's a really risky thing that we do. This whole idea of external praise is very, very dangerous. And this is Alfie Kohn's idea. Also, he's done a lot of research around it, that, we don't want external rewards. Okay, if you answer the quiz well, you get a chocolate. Or
but Sunita, I'm just going to play the devil's advocate. Here we're having a quiz, and you're going to give people a certificate. So, I've caught you out there.
No, but you're not competing with others. There is a difference. There is a difference. Every child should know where they're at in the journey. So they should have the criterion reference. They know this is the criteria, this is the standard. Am I meeting it or not? Am I beating it or not? But it's not to hold their potential back. It's not to compare with another. And I think that's a huge difference. It's also about that external praise you mentioned, Tom, that we don't need to give external feedback. So one of the feedback methods that teacher once says, oh, you've done the best work, or no, rephrase it and say it in a different way. But why at all have external evaluation?
Right. The kid can evaluate for themselves.
So for example, the kid says, ma'am, can you write good? Can you give me a smiley? Can you give me a very good? This is what we're teaching our children, coaching them to do. They keep running to the teacher, write good, write smiley, right? So we put all the smileys in the corner. Say, okay, give yourself as many smileys as you wish. You think you've done well? Go get yourself a smiley. Okay, we can give each other smileys. That's better, right? Than the teacher judging.
Yeah.
And this is ongoing. So one time I get it, one time you get it, for some different reasons.
Fantastic.
So that's really more powerful. And the
kids
idea,
marking each other's or checking each other's, checking their own.
yes, checking their own. But say, for example, in a situation where you've done really good work and you want people to see it that I've done really well. So you come to me as a parent and say, this is really good. So I say, what do you like about it? Even the teacher, what do you like about it? Yeah, I like it, but what do you like about it? Oh, I like the color red myself. What color do you like in it? How did you come with those ideas? This is really fantastic. But you're not saying an external feedback in the sense of judgment.
Right.
And there's a big difference.
Right,
There's a judgment Like
And there's
you're the
feedback.
authority figure, you're
Yes.
the teacher,
Yes.
you're judging.
Yes.
Yeah. Here's
So
a more
it's
natural interaction.
feedback, not judgment.
It's feedback, not judgment.
Really good
And
point.
it has to be internal than external. I know that Robert knew that I had done these stars right.
Mhm.
I knew, as Robert knew, rather, that I have done these stars not so well. So, I said, okay, off you go, make some more stars, even better ones.
Sure,
right?
sure.
So,
So there's a role of error in this process, right? The kids are working with each other and they're checking each other's work, checking their own work, and they don't need the teacher to tell you've done a good job or you've done a bad job, right? They know themselves. So just in summary, or to wind up this part, if I go back to the slide again, a couple of key points in terms of distinguishing whether we're praising our children or whether we're encouraging our children. So just having a look at the slide, I want to show this table, and I think basically the key difference is whether does my statement encourage all children or just some, right? So if I say you're the best in the class, that's just encouraging one child, right? It's just praising one child, as opposed to wonderful to see you working so nicely together. This is something that's encouraging multiple people. It's encouraging the whole class. Does my statement lead to more effort, right? If I just say, and this happened to me often in school, oh, Tom, you're so smart, it's actually kind of demoralizing, because like, okay, I don't actually need to try harder, right? But instead, if we say, what can you do next? That's something that's encouraging more effort. And is it specific enough to be useful? If I just say, yours is the best poem, right? It's not specific. I don't know what I've done well. But if I say, okay, the way you used rhyme and rhythm was fantastic, that's more specific. That's feedback which is specific, which is useful. So these are a couple of key points to keep in mind, right? As we interact in the ALfA classroom with our students, instead of praising them, instead of giving them these verbal rewards, we're trying to encourage them in a way that leads to more effort, not less effort, and leads to better collaboration between students rather than a sense of competition, or, oh, ma'am told me I'm the best, you're the worst. We want to move away from that. So as we move forward, very close to the end of our session now, and we're going to come to that quiz, which as we shared is not a competition, right? It's just a way for us to recap some of the things we discussed. Final thing I'd like to discuss before that is this question of feedback. So we've just been talking about us as teachers giving feedback to our students, right? But equally important is us taking feedback from our students, is understanding. We as teachers need to understand how much our children are knowing, what their level is, how they're doing. So the ALfA process, the teacher is sitting back, the kids are working in pairs, but the teacher still needs to have her antenna out. She still needs to be looking and seeing and observing very carefully to see what the level of progress is. So if we don't do that, we're like a pilot who's flying blind. So what sort of feedback do we need? Well, we need to understand how much the students are learning, what parts they're understanding, what they're not understanding, how many students, who is struggling, right? We need to understand this. And unfortunately, in the traditional education system, the most common form of feedback is written exams, right? Now, there's many problems with written exams, as we know. Maybe the biggest thing is there's a big time lag, right? If I give my exam today, I'm only going to get it marked and given back to me maybe a week, 2 weeks later. So by then, that window of opportunity has been lost, right? Also, it fosters competition. It leads to students competing against each other. So in ALfA, we're looking for a more informal mechanism of feedback, a way to get feedback from our students very quickly to understand what they're doing. So a very simple suggestion, right, for how we can do this. We can ask a question, right? We can ask a multiple choice question, for instance, and we can give our class option A, option B, option C, right? And instead, again, a normal approach, ma'am, I think you would agree, would be a normal approach would be, I'll ask the question and I'll have students raise their hands to answer, right? And of course, it's always the smart people, like the smart Alex like me, who are like, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. But then the other poor kids don't get the chance to respond, right? So instead of that, we can do just a very quick kind of multiple choice quiz type thing, which will give the teacher a sense of who knows, who doesn't know, what the learning level is at. So then, depending on how that goes, you can take the next step accordingly. For example, if everyone is clear with that concept, right? Supposing we're checking the concept of tens and ones. If everybody's clear with that concept, then we're free to move on to the next modules. If a few kids in the class are still struggling with that, they're not clear, and maybe it's time to make fresh pairs. We can make new pairs and we can go again, right? And maybe I wasn't able to learn with Samvida ma'am, but maybe with Sunita ma'am, I'll be able to learn it, right? And finally, if a majority are still struggling, then maybe it's time to teach the same concept using a whole different approach, right? Our next session coming up in an hour and a half or so, that's about numeracy. And we'll look there that a concept like tens and ones, we don't have just one tool to teach that. We've got multiple tools, right? We've got ice cream sticks and matchsticks. We've got concrete objects. We've got clapping and snapping. We've got lots of different activities. So if one activity doesn't work, you can try a different activity. But the key part here is, which we're emphasizing, is taking feedback of the learning levels of the whole class so that you know what your next step is, right? So that you know whether you need to reteach the concept, repair, or whether you're fine to move on. So let's do an example of this, right? Very briefly. You're all here, you're all active in the chat box. That's fantastic. So I'm going to very briefly check your geography random knowledge trivia quiz. So the world's deepest lake is 1, Lake Superior, which is in North America, 2, Lake Baikal, which is in Russia, or 3, Lake Victoria, which is in Africa. So I want to hear your response in the chat box. Please don't Google it, right? We're not worried about scoring marks, getting it right or wrong. I'm just doing this as a demonstration, right, of the sort of process that you can use in your classroom, right? Where obviously you wouldn't be asking a trivia question. You'd probably be asking a maths question or a reading question, right? So please respond in the chat box. I want to see, what do you think is the world's deepest freshwater lake? Right? Is it Lake Superior, Lake Baikal, or Lake Victoria? You can just post in the chat box 1, 2, or 3. You can just post option 1, 2, or 3. And this will give me a very quick sense of your knowledge of this random trivia question. So I'm just going to have a look in the chat box and see what you guys are saying. Okay. Some people are saying, lots of people are saying option 2. Joanne's saying option 3, Lake Victoria. Keep posting in the chat box. I want to see your thoughts, okay? Which ones you think. And in a classroom setting, of course, the kids would not have their phones there, but we could just have a show of hands, right? We could say, okay, so who thinks option 1? Who thinks option 2, right? We could do that. We could also use little cards. We also, sometimes for yes, no questions, we have like green means yes, red means no, so that the kids can just show their cards, right? So there's a variety of ways, but the key thing is it's whole class feedback.
Also
yes.
write their questions, because then they can hide what they wrote.
Right,
and
right.
show at the same time, or raise each other's, in fact,
right.
raise hands for each other.
So they can have a slate and they can write their answer. Everybody writes your answer, write your answer, and then hold it up at once. Right, so there are a variety of ways, but the key thing is it's the whole class, and we're getting instant feedback. It's not like an exam where it's going to take me a week to mark, and only then I'll tell them, and then we'll move on. No. So I'm just having a look in the chat box. Wow, okay, looking good. You'll be pleased to know, fantastic responses. You'll be pleased to know that it is indeed Lake Baikal. Majority of you got that right, so I feel free to move on from this module. Those who didn't get it right, I'm going to make a pair of you with somebody else. This is Lake Baikal, a beautiful image, and it's over 1,600 meters deep at its deepest point. So that is a seriously deep lake.
So sometimes, it is good to introduce some chapter by not teaching, but asking questions. And this is also a technique many teachers are using, and in ALfA, it's really a natural. So basically, for example, none of you probably know about Joanne, who's here with us from Chicago, and she's in India with us for this MOOT training and for the policymakers conclave. And none of you know about Joanne. Now, if she does a quiz about her, she says, okay, what color does she like? Where does she live? What kind of food does she like? What book she likes? How does she spend her spare time? Lots of questions, and you're supposed to answer them. You don't know anything about her, right? And you're just guessing. It's all guessing. And then what happens is now you're very curious. This is the key thing that you're drawing into. When you ask questions and they don't know the answer, you're keying into another part of curiosity that is really critical. So then she tells about us, look, I like this kind of food. I like wearing this color. I have this, that, and the other. And now you're listening very intently. And now you go back and do a quiz again on Joanne, and you'll find that you get 90% or 100% correct. And we want the children all
They're not hanging out just for the verbal reward, for the smiley face or the star, right? And it's about that process of taking feedback as well, so that we know how they are doing and we can guide them along the way, right? We can help them. So as we were very almost out of time, right? So as we wrap up the session, it's been absolutely terrific spending time with you all today. Very thought-provoking discussion. I'm so excited to be here with two of my heroes on right and left side, and with all of you very active in the chat box. I really, really appreciate that. Lots of good comments, lots of good questions coming in. So as we recap, and we'll come for another question. We've got the chance for Q&A as well, by the way. So please do post your questions in the chat, whatever you're asking. Just as a summary of all, we've seen a lot of different videos today, a lot of inspiring footage. We had a lot of good discussions. Just a very quick summary of that, right? 5 key principles of ALfA. First is, as we've seen, children are working in pairs. These pairs are made randomly, and they're made frequently, preferably every day, right? We saw that in the video. The kids were pulling out the ice cream sticks with their roll numbers on it, and they're making pairs accordingly, right? Second is the teachers are not teaching. The teachers are not explaining. They're not instructing. Instead, they're using the prompts to guide the children. The prompts are provided in the learning materials, so the teacher's role is actually kind of easier in the ALfA process. That's what many of the teachers in Shamli and the different districts have said, is that it's liberating, right? They're liberated from this burden of marking all these homework, marking all this exam. The kids are taking the process forward themselves. One of the key roles of the teacher, though, is to normalize this, right? To demonstrate, as we saw in those videos, to demonstrate for the kids this process of paired learning, demonstrate the process of taking turns, demonstrate the process of asking questions, right? That role play we did, what's this? What's its first sound? What do these sounds join together to make? The teacher is there to give demonstrations. The children, fourth key point, the children are making questions for each other. It's not that they're only answering the questions given in the textbook, right? The prompts are there, which are a starting point. They're not the finishing point, right? The prompts are there, and then the kids are making many, many more questions for each other. And finally, this point, which we were just discussing most recently, is instead of praising, instead of giving verbal rewards or reprimands, we're using a language of encouragement, a language which empowers all of the kids in the class rather than comparing and making them compete with each other. So these are some of the key points which we talked about today, which we discussed together, which we saw in those videos. Obviously, we could discuss these until our face is blue, right? Because they are absolutely fascinating things. They're fascinating principles of pedagogy. But it's been absolutely terrific to discuss them with you today. And I'm sure you're already implementing some of these in your classroom. I hope this has been some new points as well for you today, which you can take forwards and implement immediately. Sunita, I'll hand over to you to speak briefly. And then we're going straight on to the quiz. So I'll be sharing the link for the quiz in the chat box, and you can please go on that and go. It's a fun quiz. The first part of the quiz, if I just share that briefly, when you are signing into the quiz, please use your email. Okay, that's important because we are going to be taking that email and we're going to be mailing you the links to our e-learning materials, right? So please use your email to sign into that. It's a very simple quiz, just some multiple choice, some drag and drop questions, right? The first part of the quiz is questions about the topics we were discussing today, right? The process of paired learning, how ALfA works, so forth. And the second part of the quiz is just a few questions for feedback, right? We're just talking about feedback. We need feedback for this training today, right? It's an experiment for us, the first time we're doing it on YouTube. So please give us your honest feedback about what things went well today, what things could have been better, right? Just share your feedback via the last few questions of the quiz. Now, those obviously are not marked, right? They're not an assessment. They're just poll questions to hear your feedback about the training. So I've posted the link for the quiz there. You can please click on that. The benefit of the quiz, you'll get a certificate, but as we talked about, it's not about the reward, the certificate. The main thing is it's a way for you to recap. It's a fun quiz, and also you'll be getting access to the e-learning materials. Everybody who does the quiz, right? It's not enough to just participate in the training by watching a video, right? Obviously, watching a video is not very active. Please participate by actually doing the quiz yourself. So I hope the link is working. The link, you can also do it later on. There's no more Lake Baikal questions.
I did chat GPT, by the way, and I looked for ALfA. It doesn't exist out there, number one. Number two, I tried to look for what are the principles of ALfA, different kinds of principles, and some of them don't exist. So anyway, you won't find much help with the net. And so please feel free to do it. We are saying, look, at least get 50% correct. And there are only 9 questions. We also don't give 10 questions, by the way. We want children to have the base of 10. So 9, 11, 13, prime numbers of questions.
sorry, one more thing I'd like to mention there. So the link is there, right? Also, if you you probably signed on for this event via our website, right? So there's a link there also clearly given. So if you're not able to work it from here, you can go to our website. As Sunita said, there's no need to do the quiz right now, right? Because we're almost out of time. You're welcome to do it now. You're also welcome to do it later in your leisure, right? We'll be taking your email address as we're gathering from this, and we'll be sending you the materials as you wish in your own language, right? Depending on which language you prefer. One more thing I'd like to mention, I really appreciate this quiz is being done on a platform called Quizzes. So we're very grateful. We're very grateful to them for partnering with us to bring this quiz to you. It's a very fun and enjoyable platform, right? It's really nice graphics, and you are also very welcome to use quizzes in your classroom, right? I've used this in my trainings before, and it's a really nice platform. There's a 3-month free trial which Quizzes is offering, right, to our participants, right, from this MOOT. So if you enjoy the quiz, which I'm sure you will, you're welcome to get in touch with Quizzes, and they will offer you a 3-month free membership, free subscription, so that you can use these sorts of quizzes. They're very interactive, fun quizzes in your own classroom. They've got a whole repository of materials. So there's the link. Please go to that when you get the chance. And we're now absolutely open to questions, right? Any questions at all from today's session, anything that you learned today which will impact your classroom practice, please post these points in the chat box. We'll be addressing them, right? We know that we are about out of time, but we'll be here for another at least 5-10 minutes. So please, any questions from today's session, something you learned today which will actually impact your classroom practice, because that's what it's all about. You know, it's not about us just talking, not about just watching videos. It's about something that will impact your classroom practice. So please post that in the chat box. Meanwhile, I'm going to hand back to Sunita to hear your closing remarks.
All right. So one of the closing remarks, of course, I will say in a minute, but I wanted feedback for myself also. One of the goals of the massive open online training is that we can replicate the experience of a physical training online through the mechanisms we've used here. We're taking you inside a classroom. Even in a physical training, we cannot take you inside a classroom. And so many things we've done here together interactively, even though you've been at the other end of a mobile or a computer. So do you think that this is possible? This is for us a litmus test. We're first time doing massive open online training. We want it to be many more times massive. And all it takes is what we did today. Are there other things we can do? Can we make it more effective? Were you satisfied with it? Please give a rating on a scale of 1 to 9. Thank you so much. You can go above 9 also, but a scale of 1 to 9. No zeros. Thank you. No child is a 0. We never give a 0.
So some of you will have gone to the quiz now. Some will be doing it later. That's fine. Anybody else, you're please welcome to post your questions from today's session or anything that you learned which you think will impact your classroom practice. I'm just looking in the chat, which is fantastic. So somebody, the link is not opening. Okay, some technical issues are there. Maybe just please do try again with the link, and you can also try on the website. From the website, there's a button which will allow you to go to the quiz.
There's one more way.
Yes.
You go to dignityeducation.org/survey, and that'll take you to the quiz.
So we're posting the link once again in the chat, right? Which you can go to. There's also directly via our website, dignityeducation.org/survey. We'll be posting that link also in the chat. I'm now looking at the other comments, right? So the flow of the session was amazing. Inclusion of videos, interactive sessions, activities made the session very joyful. This was different from traditional seminars and workshops. So thank you so much, Nimi. That's really lovely of you to say. We wanted to try an experiment, right? I know I've been to many online trainings, and often they are dreadfully boring, to be honest. So we wanted to try something different today with more videos and more interaction. So I'm glad it worked for you, and we're interested to hear from others also as to how it was. Bhavdeep Education says, yes, it's an interactive session. Great. Indra K is asking, will the materials be provided to participants at the end of the sessions? That's right, Indra. So it's not provided immediately. Once you fill the quiz, right, we'll be getting your email from that. And once you've done the quiz, then we'll be sending you a mail.
Also, I want to say that, in the quiz, you should please try and get at least 50% right. Because surely you've been listening, then you should get 50% right. So certificate is given on the basis of you're getting at least 50% right. And then if you get 80% above right, you get a certificate of accomplishment. And that just means that you were listening even more intently. So we appreciate that. And for us, it is also a very good way to know how much was the listening happening. Because even in a physical setting, we don't know who's listening, who's not listening, who's actually actively engaged, who's not actively engaged. If this is working for you, it'll show up in the numbers.
Right.
And that'll be another feedback to us.
So one of the main points of the quiz, it's not so much an assessment for you, it's more an assessment for us, right? We need to know how we did, how this format of training was, whether it was effective or not.
And also we want to take it to millions of people. And we can't do it physical setting. You know, you're in some village, you're in some nook and corner of the country or the world.
Yes.
You know, you can just get onto a MOOT, free MOOT,
Yes. Yes.
YouTube
Yes.
session,
Yes.
and learn similarly. And
Yes.
later on, we are planning also
Yes.
a MOOC, which is
Yes.
massive open online courses, so you can learn asynchronously, and for which Samvita ma'am is helping us because she's allowing us to go into her classroom and record for every single module this kind of experience that you saw today by going into her classrooms and classrooms from another campus of City Montessori School. I want to acknowledge Ma'am Batra, Manjeet Batra. I want to acknowledge Ma'am Sangeeta Banerjee, and of course Ma'am Samvita and their coordinators, Sharmishta working with Samvita ma'am, Ruchika ma'am working with Gomti and their 2 children for grade 1, and also Smita ma'am working with grade 2 children. So this has been absolutely phenomenal. If we can do it with grade 1 and 2 children, and now UKG, they're starting with the upper KG or the KG this year. So we will be able to see more progress. I just want to remind, of course, I think we didn't mention that the children of these campuses have only been doing this for 45 working days, because that's what we want to see traction. And they've already done much better in their results. I think Samvita ma'am can share some of the results and the excitement, how long it took, how it went between baseline, which was taken 45 days earlier, and 45 days later, the post-test. How did it go for them?
Initially, when we had the baseline test, before initiating these ALfA classes, we were really worried how we're going to conduct these classes for all the children online, because every test was taking approximately 45 minutes. So 3 subjects, 45 into 3. So we had to give them extra time. But at the end of those 45 days, when we took the inline test, those children only, for one subject, for example, if I take Hindi, they took exactly 9 minutes to complete the inline test. For English, some of them took 12 minutes or 13 minutes. Means the results were amazing. Even the teachers were surprised. We had allotted 2 days to complete the inline test in comparison to the baseline test where we took 4 to 5 days. But we completed the inline test before those 2 days ended, I could say 1.5 days, taking all 6 sections comprising of 50 children each. So 15 to 6, you can imagine what the result was like. And also when we had the assessments, now these assessments were prepared by the children themselves. That is the magic of these ALfA classes. So when we did the comparison with the non-ALfA classes, our children had performed very well. For example, if I do a comparison, the ALfA classes had 75% to 95% scoring, almost 100%, I'll say, as compared to the non-ALfA class where it was limited to 60%. So the achievement of the children was absolutely praising. So we don't have to do anything. Those histograms, the data which we got, that proved to ourselves that actually ALfA is a gift to this world.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I'm just seeing many lovely comments coming in. I want to highlight especially Sagar Saurav has said, respected ma'am and Tom, I would like to invite you to kindly come to Patna, Bihar and do for my slum area needy kids. So thank you so much, Sagar, for your invite. We would love to come, definitely. Usha has said, focusing on process instead of achievements, children take control of the class, positive affirmations go a long way. Absolutely, right? So we're all about encouraging our children rather than directly praising them. Adishiv said, amazing Tom and Dr. Gandhi and Samvita ma'am for providing such amazing training. So thank you so much. That's really lovely. May Lusasi said, can you send materials in Swahili language, please? Yes, absolutely. It's available in Swahili, and we'll really appreciate you to start using those to keep further improving them, to further refine them as well. Yes, great. Fantastic. So we are so privileged that you've spent this time with us today to hear your thoughts and interactions via the chat box. That worked really well. Really excited for that. So I hope the quiz is working for some of you. If it's not working yet, please after the session go and do the quiz, because once again a reminder, your email from the quiz, that's how we're going to get the materials to you for you to start. Now, as we've been emphasizing, it's not just about the materials, it's much more about the process and the pedagogy, right? The materials are good, but the process, the pedagogy of paired learning, that's the key crucial part. So please, I think that's the key takeaway from today. So one final reminder also is that this session has obviously been focused on literacy, right? We've seen many videos, but mainly focused on literacy. Now we've got another session starting in about 1 hour, 15 minutes, which is on numeracy. So you're most welcome to join us again for that. You're most welcome to send the link to your friends, to your colleagues, your partners, right? For your maths teachers, right? The next session will have lots more hands-on activities for maths specifically. We'll be seeing over to Sunita for any closing remarks.
No, I just want to thank you all. I mean, really, I know there's less people by now because we had said 12:30 and we're 15 minutes into it further. We'll try to be more effective in use of time in the next session. But I'd like to say you've been tremendous, literally getting all the comments, honest feedback. For me, it is really important to check the bearings on whether we should continue with the online MOOT idea or let this just go to waste because it wasn't effective. But from your feedback, I can tell that was effective. So I want to thank you for that feedback. And please, yes, do spread the word. Thank you very much. And thank you to the trainers. Our youth volunteer, Tom, and he's a volunteer with Devi Sansthan for the last 4.5 years. And Tom is living in a slum. He's working from a slum. He is, more of the Indian soil than Indians, because we would not be able to live in a slum like him unless there's no chance or no choice for us, unfortunately. And I want to thank him and for a fantastic training that I could see, the interactive training as well. And I want to thank Samvida Adhikari ma'am, principal of CET Montessori School, CMS, Lucknow, Aliganj Campus 2. She and her teachers have worked hard to create those videos that you saw, and also the principals of the other campus, the teachers there also have worked very hard. I want to show my gratitude to all of them, to the entire team, and we can show the teams who've been with us since the morning, making video here, and otherwise supporting the whole process. And Joanne can say hello as well. She's been here from America. She arrived yesterday evening, and today it is the morning of or just past morning of time in India. She's from Chicago, Illinois. She is the person who heads under Rich the Literacy Chicago, and she's doing phenomenal work. And Literacy Chicago has also been using Global Dream, our ALfA toolkits for adult literacy, and they've been seeing phenomenal results. Now they want to take it much bigger, and you're all invited to make it much bigger. You become the champions. Thank you very much, everyone. Gratitude to all of you. Thank you very much.
I know my God will turn it around. I have seen my God turn it around. There are so many times in my life that I have seen my God turn it around.
Way down by battles and I be thinking of quitting the race. There is no need to give up on your journey, because I know my God will turn it around.
Are you way down by battles in life? Are you thinking of quitting the race? There is no need to give up on your journey, because I know my God will turn it around.
I know
my God will turn it around.
I have
seen my God turn it around. There are so many times in my life that I have seen my God turn it around.
I know
My God will turn it around.
I have seen
my God turn it around.
There are so many
There are so
Have you suffered from disappointment? Have some people turned their backs on you? Just keep holding on to the one who cannot disappoint. I know my God will turn it around.
Have you suffered from disappointments? Have some people turned their backs on you? Just keep holding on to the one who cannot disappoint. I know my God will turn it around.
Yeah.
My God will turn it around.
I have seen
my God turn it around.
there are so many.
Many times in my life that I have seen my God turn it around.
I know.
My God will turn it around.
I have
seen my God turn it around.
There are so many.
Times in my life that I have seen my God
Turn it around. Are you thinking that you're all alone? Do you feel God has forsaken you? He has promised to keep you till the end of the journey. I know my God will turn it around.
Are you thinking that you're all alone? So you feel God has forsaken you? He has promised to keep you till the end of the journey. I have seen my God turn it around.
There are so many times. I know. I have seen my God turn it around. There are so many
times in my life that I have seen my God turn it around.
I know.
My God will turn it around.
I have seen
my God turn it around. There are so many times in my life that I have seen my God turn it around.
I know.
I have seen my God turn it around. There are so many times in my life that I have seen my